Chapter 30, The Sudden Increase in the Number of Rich Points. Li Moran's voice was indeed very pleasant to the ear. With Liu Jian's enthusiastic encouragement, it quickly attracted the attention of countless viewers in other live broadcast rooms. Many people who did not know the truth also rushed to this live broadcast room. Although these people were curious and wanted to see what kind of rich person could be so generous, after coming to this live broadcast room, they were naturally attracted by Li Moran's beauty and singing, and eventually became her fans. In just 10 minutes, the number of people watching the entire live broadcast room soared from about 10,000 to 30,000, and the popularity is still increasing. This is enough to show how important the rich are to the anchor. At this moment, Li Moran's mood had become extremely excited. This is not to say that she received monetary profits from Bai Far Chaohua, but that she discovered that so many audiences actually liked to listen to her songs. The huge sense of accomplishment that came from their heart really made her dizzy. Of course, Li Moran was not arrogant at this time. She almost choked up and said, "Everyone knows that I just started to be a live broadcaster a few days ago. Maybe it's a little bloody, but it's true. My only purpose of being a live broadcaster is to earn enough medical expenses for my father's treatment, but I didn't expect to get so much support from so many people. I am also very grateful to you for listening to me singing here. Of course, the most grateful thing is I am a god of wealth. If it weren't for your strong support, I think Moran might have disappeared in the live broadcast industry long ago. Thank you, I am a god of wealth." As she said that, she stood up from her seat and bowed with tears in her eyes. "Oh my God, my wife is crying. My heart hurts so much. It's so sad. If I had money, I would definitely give it all to her. I want to support my wife, I'll donate a sausage." There was a burst of discussion on the barrage, and it was obvious that everyone was moved by Li Moran's eloquent words. If they were just simply in love with her beauty and singing before, now they are absolutely moved by her personality. Ding, congratulations to the anchor for receiving 1000 super rocket rewards from I Am a Rich Man. At this moment, the system burst out with such an announcement again. Swish. 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 Immediately afterwards, countless rockets rose up in Li Moran's live broadcast room. The densely packed rockets seemed to burst the entire screen. It was indescribably shocking. 1,000 rounds. Oh my God. That's 1,000 rounds, super hot. Both Li Moran himself and the audience in the entire live broadcast room were stunned there, and the entire barrage was silent. No one present could believe that what they were seeing was real. Someone actually posted 1,000 super hot posts in an instant. You have to know that this is a full 2 million Chinese yuan. Boom. After a brief moment of distraction, the entire live broadcast room exploded. Oh my God. This guy is definitely a real rich man. He doesn't even blink an eye when he is so popular. Oh my God, when Shanhao swiped 100 rounds of super fire last time, I thought it was a rare sight. Today, I finally know what real financial strength is. Damn it, this guy is so rich and inhumane. With so much money, why not just hire a young model? Why bother picking up girls here? Countless discussions were heard in the live broadcast room, and the entire barrage was full of various opinions. Of course, the impact of thousands of super fires was not limited to this live broadcast room. As the platform played the spectacular scene of thousands of super fires in a loop, countless people were discussing it, and countless viewers flocked to Li Moran's live broadcast room. Call. At this time, Liu Jian didn't care about other people's eyes. He just silently counted the increase in his own rich points. It lasted for about 3 minutes before the effect slowly subsided, and this time he earned nearly 130,000 godly rich points. The power of the 1,000 rounds of super fire is really impressive. It seems that we need to use it a few more times. Liu Jian was very satisfied with the result this time. Although he spent 2 million Chinese yuan, he was able to earn so many Shanhao points, which was definitely an extremely cost-effective deal. Of course, it was still far from the ultimate goal of 1 million tonight, so he was not that surprised and soon looked for other goals. In the following period of time, Liu Jian continued to devote himself to the reward process. Whenever he makes a live broadcast that is pleasing to the eye, he will leave generous rewards, ranging from the worst 10 super fires to the best 1,000 super fires. Every time he comes, the host of the current live broadcast room will be ecstatic. The super rich is here. This is a real rich man. No matter which anchor saw this message, they naturally became nervous. The small anchors imagined that they could get Liu Jian's favor like Li Moran, and the big anchors also wanted to make friends with him. After all, such a generous and fair super rich man is not available every day, and there will be no second chance if you miss it. Of course, Liu Jian was too lazy to respond to these people's friend requests and just sent gifts silently. However, what made him depressed was that although he swiped the 1,000 fire points several times in succession, the effect was still much lower than the first time. Each subsequent super fire only earned him about 80,000 or 90,000 godly rich points. Could it be that this audience tonight has already gotten used to my super rich attributes? Liu Jian thought about it carefully and could only guess this reason. After all, if a person knew that he was a super rich man, then no matter how strange and shocking the other party did, the impact on him would still be limited. After realizing this, although I felt somewhat dissatisfied, I was also quite helpless. Fortunately, he still has a lot of bullets in his hand, so even if he grinds, he should be able to get 1 million godly rich points. So, at this time, Liu Jian was like an emperor visiting the harem, inspecting the countless live broadcast rooms below. The rich man has arrived, bringing blood and rain. Countless anchors were looking forward to Liu Jian's arrival as if they had been injected with chicken blood. That kind of enthusiasm was something they hadn't seen in a long time. Of course, the ones who were most shocked were the audience in the live broadcast room. As Qin Far Chao were continued to resound throughout the entire live broadcast platform, the audience had already classified Liu Jian as a super rich man. Finally got it. After spending nearly 2 hours, Liu Jian finally collected 1 million godly rich points. Of course, with Liu Jian's withdrawal from the platform, some people have been estimating what will happen to China tonight. 30 million Chinese yuan. If their estimate was correct, Liu Jian spent 30 million in one night. Even the richest man in China wouldn't waste money like this, right? Obviously, Liu Jian has refreshed the entire live broadcast platform's concept of what it means to be rich and willful tonight. Chapter 31 Prescription. Oh my god. Liu Jian, are you still a human being? Even if you have money, you don't have to waste it like this, right? You spendthrift, this is more than 2 million Chinese yuan. If you really don't have anywhere to spend it, you can give it to me. Liu Jian, who had just quit the live broadcast platform, suddenly found that Fan Qiang had been standing beside him at some point. Apparently, the latter had seen Liu Jian's last feat of firing 1,000 rounds of super fire, and at this moment he was firing at him like a machine gun. Liu Jian also said helplessly, "Fatty, next time you come in, can you knock on the door first?" Fan Qiang seemed to have not heard anything at all, and continued to say in dissatisfaction, "Fuck. I have never seen 1,000 rounds of super fire in my life. Damn it." Seeing Fan Qiang's disappointed look, Liu Jian felt really funny. If this guy knew that he spent not just 2 million Chinese yuan tonight, but more than 30 million, I wonder how he would feel. Fuck you, rich people are just awesome. Fan Qiang couldn't help but curse under his breath. It was obvious that he could no longer keep up with Liu Jian's pace. Liu Jian said with a smile, "Fatty, just get along well with me in the future. Do you still worry about not having money? These are just small amounts of money." The fat man suddenly came to his senses, his body trembled, and he hurriedly said, "Big brother, please accept my humble respect." Roll. Liu Jian knew very well that the fat guy was just pretending. "Hey hey." The fat man stood up tactfully. Liu Jian laughed and scolded for a while before sending the fat man away. Tell me. The relationship between Fatty and him is really close. The former has never lived in such a big villa, so Liu Jian did not chase him away tonight and let him rest here for one night. While the fat man was happily looking for his guest room, Liu Jian quickly opened his property panel and found that everything had changed. Host, Liu Jian. Age, 24 years old. Super rich points, 1013694. Items, none. Skills, none. Mysticism, loyalty detection. Current sign in task, none. Liu Jian was very happy when he saw the more than 1 million points of the godly rich. He did not waste any time and quickly went to the system mall to exchange the prescription for the beauty pills. Ding, would you like to exchange the beauty pill prescription? Yes. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully exchanging the prescription for beauty pills. 1 million godly rich points will be deducted. As the system sounded, Liu Jian suddenly had a prescription in his hand. He took a closer look and found that it was very detailed, with detailed descriptions of the types of materials, processes, and final results. Although he could not understand many of the details with his limited medical knowledge, and did not know whether it could be made with current pharmaceutical technology, he was still very excited and said, "I finally got the prescription after spending nearly 30 million. I hope I won't be disappointed." The next day, after Liu Jian arrived at the group, he called Su Jinsi directly to his office. When Su Jinsi saw the prescription, she trembled violently and said in disbelief, "Mr. Liu, is this prescription real? Is the effect of this beauty pill really as strong as it is said?" Liu Jian quickly threw out a light yellow pill the size of a little finger and said, "This is a finished beauty pill. As for its efficacy, I can't say for now, but you can find someone to test it. I don't think it should be that bad." Although he got the prescription last night, he still decisively spent 5,000 godly rich points to exchange for a pill. "Okay." Su Jinsi nodded, a strong excitement flashing in her eyes. As a top student who graduated from a world-class university, her business acumen is beyond doubt. If this beauty pill is really as good as the prescription says, then its commercial value can be described as incalculable. Soon, Su Jinsi then found an employee of the group. The employee in front of him was about 25 or 26 years old, a little fat, with very rough skin, and his face was full of pits and pimples. His overall temperament was really not good. I have to say, the little black mouse that Su Jinsi found really met the criteria of the experiment. At least in Liu Jian's opinion, this girl was the kind of girl in the crowd that you would never look at a second time after taking one look at her. The girl said a little nervously, "Hello, Mr. Liu." Liu Jian nodded and said, "I think Assistant Su should have told you the purpose of calling you here today. Are you sure you want to participate in this experiment?" "I am sure." The girl nodded vigorously, and it was obvious that she had great resentment towards her appearance and temperament. In fact, Liu Jian knew that generally speaking, the things given by the system would definitely not have any side effects, so he just asked casually at this time. Since the other party agreed to this experiment, there was no need to say anything more. Not long. The girl took the pill under the watchful eyes of Liu Jian and Su Jinsi. But after 5 minutes, there was not much change. According to the girl, she just felt a warm current surging in her body, and as it flowed through her body, she felt an indescribable warmth. Apart from this, there is no other feeling. You should go back first. After waiting for nearly half an hour, the girl didn't show much change, so Liu Jian had no choice but to tell her to go back first. The girl nodded and said with a slight disappointment, "Yes, Mr. Liu. Logically speaking, beauty pills shouldn't be ineffective. Since it is a treasure produced by the system, it is definitely not a fake." When Liu Jian took the physical pill, his body shape and temperament changed greatly in a very short time. Su Jinsi couldn't help but laugh and said, "Boss Liu, how can any pill in the world take effect so quickly, especially a beauty pill like this? I think as long as this beauty pill can really work, there will definitely be changes by then." Liu Jian suddenly felt relieved. Good. Beauty pills are not physical pills, the two are not the same. It would be too exaggerated if beauty pills could instantly change the user's skin and temperament. Thinking of this, his brows relaxed and he said, "Let's not worry about the efficacy of the medicine for now. Please help me find an expert to see if we can make this beauty pill with our current pharmaceutical technology." "Okay, Mr. Liu." Su Jinsi also knew that this was a serious matter, and his expression became solemn. After explaining all this, Liu Jian felt a little more relaxed. He smiled and said, "If the beauty pill can really be fully developed, we will make a lot of money." Su Jinsi also smiled and said, "Boss Liu, women care most about their appearance. As long as this beauty pill is effective, I believe it will make you the richest man in China in a matter of minutes." Chapter 32 Billion Cash Reward. The richest man in China? Liu Jian's heart tightened slightly, and his eyes were full of anticipation. You should know that the current wealth of China's richest man is about 250 billion. Although judging by the Yunqian Group stocks he currently holds, he is also a wealthy man with nearly 60 to 70 billion assets, but these stocks cannot be converted into cash for the time being, so he can only be regarded as an empty shell. In addition, he spent nearly 30 million last night, and now there are only more than 20 million Chinese yuan left in the card. Thinking of this, he said helplessly, "It's really not that easy to be a super rich man." In the past, 20 million yuan was a sum of money that he could hardly earn in his entire life, but now he spent it all in just one night. Should I sell the house then? Just thinking about this is depressing enough. After all, I am a wealthy man. It would be really lame if I had to sell houses to make a living. Ding, host, please go to the Luodong Road branch of the Bank of Communications to sign in. The sign-in reward is 1 billion Chinese yuan. What? Liu Jian was stunned for a moment, his eyes full of surprise. Su Jinsi, who was standing next to him, had not yet left the office. Hearing this, she immediately asked in surprise, Boss Liu, what's wrong with you? Liu Jian took a deep breath, waved his hands and said, no, nothing. By the way, Jinsi, go and do what I told you to do. Okay, Mr. Liu. Although Su Jinsi felt that Liu Jian's behavior just now was a bit strange, she didn't think much about it at this time. Soon, Su Jinsi walked out of the office. Liu Jian was extremely excited and said, It's sent. I didn't expect that this sign-in was a waste of money. System, I really love you too much. Just a moment later, Liu Jian then went to the parking lot downstairs of the group and drove the Reventon quickly to the Luodong Road branch. I have to say, Raventon's figure was indeed cool enough, and it brought Liu Jian countless attention along the way. It only took him about 20 minutes to earn hundreds of godly points. With a simple drift, the Reventon stopped coolly at the door of the Luodong Road branch, and Liu Jian slowly walked down from it. It was around 10:30 in the morning, and there were still many people doing business near this commercial street. Oh my god! This is Lamborghini's Reventon. I heard that this car alone costs 15 million Chinese yuan. I didn't expect to see it in this place. It's so cool. I didn't realize this guy was such a rich guy. Damn, it would be so nice if I had this car. When the young men in the distance saw the car, their eyes widened with envy and jealousy. Not only that, a girl with a pretty face happened to be walking towards them. The girl was holding a small white dog, wearing very cool clothes, and looked quite charming. She looked at Raventon in surprise, and suddenly threw a wink at Liu Jian. That look was quite provocative. Oh my god! Rich people are treated differently. To be honest, this was the first time Liu Jian had received a wink since the sign-in system was introduced. Although he had no interest in such girls, he still felt quite happy about it. The girl quickly came to Liu Jian's side and said with a charming smile, Handsome boy, if you have time, would you like to take me for a ride? I'm afraid I'm not available today. Liu Jian smiled and walked straight to the bank. Snort. The girl was obviously feeling ignored and felt quite angry, but when she saw the luxury car, her eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of obsession. Liu Jian couldn't help but frown as he walked into the bank, because there were still a lot of people in the bank at this time. There were at least 30 people sitting there waiting in line. Sir, what business do you need? At this time, a pretty bank clerk came over with a smile. It was obvious that she was a recent graduate. Although he had arrived at the destination, the system still didn't know when to pop up the sign-in interface. He had applied for a Bank of Communications card when he was in school, but he hadn't used it for some time and there didn't seem to be much money in it. Thinking that he would have to spend a lot in the future and there would be many opportunities to transfer money, a daily transfer limit of 1 million was obviously not enough for a rich man. Since he was already at the bank, it wouldn't hurt to do it by the way, so he said, I want to increase the transfer limit. Okay, do you have your ID card with you? Get a number here first. The girl nodded and smiled. Liu Jian took a number as the girl asked, only to find that there were 28 people in front of him waiting. Now that you're here, just wait. Anyway, as long as you sign in, you can just leave. Thinking of this, Liu Jian sat down with peace of mind, his brows still full of anticipation. After all, it's a full 10 billion Chinese yuan. Even though he was worth 60 to 70 billion, he had never seen such a long string of numbers. He felt particularly excited just thinking about it. Time passes slowly. Of course, the bank's efficiency is not that fast. Every customer takes at least 5 minutes at the counter, and there are only 3 counters open now, so it takes more than half an hour to clear the queue. Fortunately, Liu Jian was not worried about the length of the remaining team, but was anxious about when the system would allow him to complete his sign-in. However, the more anxious Liu Jian became, the more he found this system to be deceptive. Nearly half an hour passed, and when it was almost his turn, there was still no movement. Oh my god! This damn system won't let me wait here until people get off work. Liu Jian felt really speechless, but at this time he was really helpless. Please go to counter 3 for business, number 2103. At this moment, the bank's automatic calling system suddenly rang, and Liu Jian saw that it was his number. Oh my god! Nearly 30 people have been waiting but still can't sign in. This system is really unreliable. Liu Jian complained in his heart, but had no choice but to increase the transfer limit first. He quickly walked to counter 3, where there was a female employee with heavy makeup. The female employee looked about 35 or 36 years old. She was not very pretty, but her makeup was very thick. Even through the window, you could smell a pungent fragrance. When Chang Fen saw Liu Jian sitting down, she raised her eyebrows and said lightly, "Bank card." Liu Jian frowned, slightly dissatisfied with the employee's attitude, but he didn't say anything at this time. After all, there were still 1 billion waiting for him. Chang Fen quickly took out the bank card and put it into the machine, then asked Liu Jian to enter the password. At the same time, she still said indifferently, "What business do you want to do?" "I want to increase my transfer limit," Liu Jian said as he entered the password. Chapter 33, Being arrogant depends on who you are in front of. 628 yuan. Chang Fen scanned the balance in Liu Jian's bank card, was stunned for a moment, and then asked jokingly, "Then how about raising it to 100 million? Okay." Liu Jian knew that the bank offered this service, and he felt that although the limit of 100 million was not too high, it should be enough for him. Chang Fen was furious and sneered, "Are you here to cause trouble? Isn't the transfer limit of 1 million enough? Call." After these words were spoken, Liu Jian, who had not yet come to his senses, suddenly became gloomy. "This damn bitch is actually laughing at me. I already thought this female employee had a bad attitude, and now I'm even more upset. Ding, would you like to sign in now? Sign in. Ding, congratulations to their host for successfully completing the check-in at the Luodong Road branch of the Bank of Communications. The reward of 1 billion Chinese yuan has now been deposited into their host's Bank of Communications card." Just then the system finally received a sign-in message. Liu Jian was overjoyed. This was a full 1 billion Chinese yuan. Chang Fen said coldly, "Hey, do you want to do it or not? We are very busy here and don't have time to waste here with you." Liu Jian said in a deep voice, "It doesn't matter if you don't want the transfer limit, then just take out all the money in the card. I want it now." Snort. Chang Fen was also very unhappy with Liu Jian's attitude and immediately prepared to take action. But when she saw the numbers on the screen again, she was startled. More than 1 billion. Was he at just 628 yuan just now? When did it become more than 1 billion? Chang Fen felt that her eyes were blurry and rubbed them vigorously, but when she looked carefully, it was still the same number. 1 billion. A full 10 billion. This guy is actually worth 10 billion. Chang Fen took a deep breath and her face turned ugly. Liu Jian said sarcastically, "What? Why don't you take out the money for me? Don't you think I can withdraw the money after I deposited it in the bank?" Chang Fen's expression became awkward, and her previous arrogant attitude suddenly disappeared. Then she put on an almost flattering look and said, "Sir, the amount you want to withdraw is really too large. I'm afraid our branch cannot honor it now." "Oh, really?" Liu Jian's eyes were full of ridicule. He said slowly, "Then call your manager over to me." Chang Fen's face changed, and she quickly said, "There's no need to call the manager, right? If you really want to withdraw the money, go to the Meiwan Road headquarters now. I think the money must be there." If the manager knew that such a large deposit was transferred from her, she would definitely be criticized. After all, banks attach great importance to savings and loans. If a big customer like Liu Jian is lost, it will definitely be a huge loss. Liu Jian said calmly, "I don't want to go, I just want your manager to come out." Chang Fen's face turned extremely ugly. Perhaps the noise here attracted the attention of the people around, and soon a middle-aged man in his 40s walked out from the inner room. He walked over and smiled, "Sir, is there anything I can help you with?" Liu Jian said calmly, "I just wanted to increase the transfer limit of my bank card, but I was ridiculed by you, the teller." "Har har, okay. The bank is just big and I can't afford to offend it. Now you want to take the money out of my account." After hearing what happened, the manager glared at Chang Fen fiercely. To be honest, he was well aware of the latter's style. This employee could only enter the bank through the back door. He was often complained by many customers. Today, this happened again. However, the incident had already happened, and he didn't want to cause trouble at this time. He said in a deep voice, "Chang Fan, since this gentleman has this request, why don't you do it?" Manager, his money. Chang Fan was a little lacking in confidence. If she had known that this guy was so rich, she would definitely not have had this attitude. The manager frowned, his eyes involuntarily flicking to the computer screen. Oh my god! 1 billion. The manager's whole body trembled instantly. Although he had been working in the bank for nearly 20 years and had seen countless wealthy people, it could be said that money was just a string of numbers in his eyes. But even so, he had never seen 1 billion yuan in a private account. Where did this guy get so much money? This was the manager's first thought, and of course he immediately glared at Chang Fan again. The person in front of him is definitely a big customer. Normally, he wouldn't have enough money to support such a customer. Now, Chang Fan is so angry that she wants to take all the money away. Isn't this going to piss him off to death? Thinking of this, he hurriedly apologized, "Sir, I'm really sorry. I think our staff must have done something wrong just now, which made you feel uncomfortable. How about this, I will adjust the transfer amount for you now." Liu Jian waved his hand and said, "Now I just want to withdraw the money." The manager's forehead was covered with cold sweat. You know, someone with 1 billion in his personal account is definitely not an ordinary person. As a bank manager, he would never rashly let such a person lose money. He smiled and said, "Sir, I know that our bank staff must have offended you with words just now. I hope you can understand. Chang Fan, why don't you apologize to this gentleman quickly?" His tone was already quite stern at the end. Although Chang Fan was unhappy with the manager's scolding, she realized the seriousness of the situation and could only say, "Mr. Liu, I'm sorry, it was all my fault just now." Liu Jian said jokingly, "Seeing that there is a lot of money in my account, you are apologizing now? Har har, you didn't have this attitude just now. It seems very arrogant." Chang Fan's face turned blue and red after hearing what Liu Jian said, and she looked extremely embarrassed. The manager had long been dissatisfied with Chang Fan. This woman relied on her family background and often didn't even take him, the manager, seriously. He immediately said seriously, "Chang Fan, for your behavior just now, you will be punished with a serious offense." Manager. Chang Fan's face changed slightly. This punishment was still very serious. Firstly, her performance bonus was gone, and secondly, she would not be able to get a salary increase or promotion within a year. The manager ignored her and said apologetically, "Mr. Liu, I'm really sorry. We usually neglect to discipline our employees, which led to this result. I apologize to you on behalf of our bank. We will definitely deal with this matter seriously, and I hope you don't take it to heart. As for the balance of your account, don't worry, as long as everything complies with the procedures, we guarantee to give you a satisfactory explanation. Since you've said that, I'll just let it go." Considering that the manager was reasonable, Liu Jian did not insist on taking the cash. After all, it doesn't matter where you put your money. Chapter 34: Familiar People and Familiar Things. Just 5 minutes. The bank opened a transfer limit of 100 million yuan for Liu Jian, and the efficiency was unprecedented. Since the cash had arrived, Liu Jian had achieved his goal. He did not stay here any longer and soon left the bank accompanied by the manager himself. When the manager saw Liu Jian got into the Silver Raven, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it. I almost offended a super rich second generation. It was really a close call just now. Humph, this woman Chang Fan is really too much. I usually only let her go because she has some background. This time I must deal with her properly." His tone sounded very angry when he said this. After getting in the car, Liu Jian felt extremely comfortable. This was a full 10 billion in cash. When he saw the long string of zeros in his account at the end just now, he was extremely excited. Although he is not a super rich man now, at least he is definitely a fighter among the young generation of Jiangnan City. It's getting late. When he arrived at the bank, it was already past 11 o'clock in the morning. Now it was lunchtime and Liu Jian was hungry, so he thought about finding a place to eat nearby. The Silver Reventon drove slowly on the road, and after a few turns he arrived at a nearby commercial center. Liu Jian first parked the car in a parking lot, and then slowly walked down from it. The commercial center in front of us has a bit of the flavor of a pedestrian street. The old street on the left, which is about 2 kilometers long, is full of snacks, attracting countless young couples, while on the right is a high-end restaurant where many successful business people or people negotiating cooperation will dine. Not far from the blocks on both sides is Jiangnan City's most prosperous commercial center, where countless high-end luxury items are sold, such as watches, women's bags, etc. World-famous brands have stores here. Let's go to the restaurant. If he had a female companion, Liu Jian would still enjoy the scene of the two of them strolling in the old street and eating, but when he saw that there were only men and women walking together there, he suddenly lost interest. I guess you'll be full of dog food if you go there. After walking for about a few minutes, his attention was attracted by a RB restaurant. I have to say, although the restaurant in front of you is located in the commercial center, you can feel an elegant and fresh feeling as soon as you enter. The original wood color decoration style still gives people a very good feeling. Sir, how many people can I ask? 1. Okay, then please follow me. I'll sit in the corner by the window. Are you satisfied? Can. Liu Jian was not particularly picky about his seat, so he sat down alone. There were not too many people in the restaurant, but not too few either. There were only about 7 or 8 tables of people eating there. The environment seemed elegant but not too lonely. The waitress quickly handed him a menu. Liu Jian only took a quick look and found that the dishes here were ridiculously expensive. The most luxurious sashimi cost 23.88. No wonder not many people ate here. But I just received 1 billion Chinese yuan, so this little money is nothing to me. He quickly ordered several dishes, which cost about 20,000 yuan. The waitress originally thought that Liu Jian was just an ordinary person, but she didn't expect him to be so generous. Her eyes lit up and she left. Just at this moment, suddenly, a graceful woman walked in at the door of the restaurant. The girl was extremely beautiful, and was no less beautiful than Su Jinsi. Liu Jian actually knew this person. Lin Weiya. Isn't this the female vice president of my previous company? Lin Weiya obviously noticed Liu Jian as well and was stunned for a moment, as if she had not expected to meet him here. Although the two had been in the same company for the previous 3 months, Lin Weiya was the vice president of the company after all, so she would not have had too much interaction with Liu Jian. In fact, if it weren't for what happened in the marketing department before, the female president might not even remember him, so Lin Weiya simply nodded at this time. Liu Jian nodded slightly as a greeting. Lin Weiya quickly crossed the middle road and walked towards the private room not far away. Liu Jian subconsciously glanced over there and found 2 bodyguards standing at the door of the private room inside. It seems that the person Lin Weiya came to meet is not an ordinary person. Although this girl's work style is vigorous and decisive, and almost a bit ruthless, she is really good looking. I wonder who will be lucky enough to marry her in the future. As Lin Weiya's graceful figure disappeared from his sight, Liu Jian couldn't help but sigh slightly. The serving speed of Japanese cuisine is still very fast. Just less than 5 minutes. There were several dishes on Liu Jian's table, and since he was alone, Liu Jian started eating without hesitation, but he frowned after just 2 bites. I should have known not to come to this restaurant earlier. Chinese food is still delicious. The ingredients in the dishes before him were indeed very fresh and tender, and it was obvious that each one was of great talent, but the cooking method and eating habits still made him feel a little uncomfortable. Since you are all here. Although he didn't like the food very much, Liu Jian was not a pretentious person, so he finally chose to eat at this restaurant. About 10 minutes later, just when Liu Jian was having his meal leisurely, suddenly there was a shouting sound coming from the private room inside. Liu Jian couldn't help but frown when he heard this. Although the shouting was not very loud, and even because the private room was quite far away the sound was very soft, he could still vaguely recognize that it was Lin Weiya's voice. Liu Jian's expression changed. Even though he and Lin Weiya were not very familiar with each other, they knew each other after all. If the other party really had an accident, he would not stand idly by. Thinking of this, Liu Jian stood up and walked towards the private room not far away. It's you? However, before they reached the door, the 2 bodyguards standing there trembled violently. Liu Jian frowned again and asked, Why, do you know me? Yes. One of the bodyguards spoke with a pale face. Although his eyes could not be seen because he was wearing sunglasses, it seemed that he was vaguely afraid. Liu Jian was slightly confused. He really couldn't remember where he had seen them before. After all, the bodyguards all wore the same black uniforms and a pair of cool sunglasses. They were all pretty much the same. Go away. Just then, a voice came from inside again. It was Lin Weiya's. Chapter 35, Lin Weiya under the conspiracy. Get out of the way. Liu Jian's expression darkened, and at this moment he was too lazy to find out where he had met the other person before. The faces of the two men turned extremely ugly, and they were hesitant for a moment. Bang! Liu Jian didn't hesitate at all and kicked. This was just an ordinary Japanese-style sliding door. Although it looked good, it was completely useless. It turned into debris under Liu Jian's feet almost instantly. It's you? A terrified voice suddenly rang out in the house. Liu Jian looked over and was also a little confused when he saw the man. In addition to Lin Weiya, there was another fat young man in the room. His cheeks were slightly raised and he looked like a pig's head. It was Xiao Jingqiang whom he met in the bar before. At this moment, Xiao Jingqiang looked at Liu Jian with horror on his face, and there was unspeakable surprise in his eyes. Snort. Liu Jian looked around and found that Lin Weiya's face was pale and her mood was not very stable. Fortunately, she did not seem to have suffered any harm, but her expression was a little fluctuating. Vice President Lin, are you okay? Liu Jian asked kindly. When Lin Weiya saw Liu Jian coming over, she finally relaxed, shook her head and said, I'm fine. She had never expected that the other party who originally wanted to discuss cooperation would suddenly make a move on her. If she hadn't shouted loudly, the consequences would have been disastrous. Liu Jian walked up to Xiao Jingqiang and sneered, You stupid pig head. I didn't expect that after I taught you a lesson earlier, you would dare to come out and show off again. It seems that if I don't kill you, you really don't know how powerful I am. Xiao Jingqiang had known Liu Jian's true identity since that day. He immediately knelt down in fear and admitted his mistake. Mr. Liu, please don't misunderstand. This is not my fault. I really didn't know that Vice President Lin was unwilling. He almost cried at the end. Of course, this crying is also lamenting how unlucky one's luck is. You can run into this plague god wherever you go. Liu Jian snorted coldly and said, Do you think I'm stupid? If I hadn't broken in, Vice President Lin would have fallen into your hands. How dare you argue with me now? He was really speechless and didn't know what was going on in Xiao Jingqiang's brain. It was broad daylight now. Did he really think that his father could cover the sky with one hand? It's unfair, it's unfair. Xiao Jingqiang cried and said with a look of grievance, I talked to the chairman of Chenghui Trading before, and he personally hinted that Vice President Lin could do that. That's why I took action before. Nonsense, why would the chairman say that? Lin Weiya's delicate body trembled violently, her eyes filled with shock and anger. Liu Jian frowned, and there was something wrong on his face. To be honest, he had been in Chenghui Trading for a while and knew that the chairman of the company was indeed an old rogue. Many young girls in the company had fallen victim to his murderous hands. So when they saw that Lin Weiya was qualified to be their vice president at such a young age, many people in the company were still fantasizing. It is indeed possible that Xiao Jingqiang can say this now. Xiao Jingqiang was afraid that Liu Jian would misunderstand him, so he hurriedly said, I didn't lie. I really didn't lie. Yesterday, your chairman Qian Chihu personally called my father and said that he wanted to cooperate with our company and sign the next big Shanshuiwan contract with Yunqian Group. He also hinted at it many times in his words and deeds. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Lin Weiya's face turned extremely ugly, and she obviously didn't believe this was true. Liu Jian came to Xiao Jingqiang and said coldly, HMPH, pighead, I don't believe you. Then he stepped on his hand, causing the latter to scream in pain. The two bodyguards next to him wanted to step forward but didn't dare to for a moment, because they knew that this guy was the nobleman mentioned by the chairman and was someone they absolutely dared not offend. Tell me. What's going on? Liu Jian said viciously. Xiao Jingqiang hurriedly said, Liu, Mr. Liu, I really dare not lie to you. You are our great benefactor, I dare not lie to you even if I lie to anyone else. If I lied in this matter, then I will have no children. Seeing that this guy really didn't seem to be lying, Liu Jian slowly moved his right foot away. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Lin Weiya's face was pale at this moment, and she couldn't accept such a result at all. Is it true what is being spread in the company? Is this Lin Weiya really Qian Chihu's mistress? Otherwise, Lin Weiya wouldn't be so excited. Liu Jian thought silently, and sighed in his heart. I didn't expect such a beautiful girl to be a mistress. What a waste. Boss Liu, what happened today is really not my fault. Please forgive me. Otherwise, if my dad knows about this, he will definitely break my legs. Xiao Jingqiang was crying and begging with a sad face, and his expression was so heartbreaking that anyone who heard him would cry. Go away. Since he had some idea that this was not an intentional use of force, his resentment towards Xiao Jingqiang was naturally greatly reduced. At this moment, he had no time to pay attention to this guy and just kicked him directly. R. Xiao Jingqiang happened to bump his head against the wooden table, and his forehead even bled. But he didn't care about the pain, and hurriedly shouted, "Thank you, Mr. Liu, thank you, Mr. Liu." Then he ran away with his bodyguards. Liu Jian said slowly, "Vice President Lin, I don't think Xiao Jingqiang would dare to lie about this matter. I think you should know Chen Chihu's reputation in Chenghui commerce. I advise you to go back and think about it carefully. Thank you very much." Although Lin Weiyar was still a little emotional, she was the vice president of the company after all, so she calmed down at this time. Liu Jian waved his hand and said, "It's just a small matter." Lin Weiyar said bitterly, "I didn't expect that my uncle would do such a thing." Uncle. Liu Jian was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously said, You are relatives. I thought you were Chen Chihu's little." Snort. Lin Weiyar's face flashed with dissatisfaction, but she did not get angry. She just said lightly, "I know that when I was in the company before, many people misunderstood the relationship between me and my uncle. It was just that I had just graduated from abroad at that time. I just wanted to make some achievements when I first arrived, so I didn't want to explain too much." Oh, so that's how it is. Liu Jian felt slightly relieved. It seemed that he had really misunderstood. However, Lin Weiyar's expression was still somewhat bitter, but she said firmly, "I will get to the bottom of this matter no matter what, and I will never let it go easily." Chapter 36 Old Street Snack Diary. Liu Jian understood Lin Weiyar's feelings very well, but he could do nothing to help her. It's none of his business anyway. But suddenly Lin Weiyar asked strangely, "By the way, Xiao Jingqiang seemed to be very afraid of you just now." Liu Jian laughed and said, "I just beat him up earlier." You beat him? Lin Weiyar opened her mouth, her eyes full of surprise. She was in a state of panic before, and had no time to think about many things. Now that she thought about it carefully, she had a lot of doubts in her heart. For example, why did the two bodyguards who were clearly beside Xiao Jingqiang just now not dare to come forward to help? For example, Xiao Jingqiang seemed to call this person Mr. Liu, and his tone was quite respectful. Liu Jian smiled and nodded, saying, "That's right, this pighead deserves a beating, so I'll give him a good beating while I'm at it." Yeah. Lin Weiyar was still somewhat suspicious. As far as she knew, Xiao Jingqiang was a very arrogant person and was also a well-known playboy in Jiangnan City. How could a person like him swallow such humiliation? Liu Jian smiled again and said, "Of course." Although Lin Weiyar was extremely confused, she didn't have the mood to delve into it at this time. After all, what happened today really left a huge negative impact on her heart. It can be seen that Lin Weiyar is not in a good mood. Although she hardly eats here, she is not in the mood to stay here any longer. She forced a smile and said, "Liu Jian, thank you very much for what happened today. I will definitely thank you some other day. I will go back first." Liu Jian thought for a moment and said, "Vice President Lin, how about I take you back?" "Okay, thank you." If it were any other time, Lin Weiyar would definitely refuse. After all, she didn't want to cause any scandal with anyone, but at this moment she was in no mood to care about it, so she just hesitated for a moment and nodded. After walking out of the restaurant, the two went straight to where they had parked their car previously. Just as they passed the old street, they smelled a rich fragrance coming from there. I have to say, the aroma of these traditional Chinese snacks was particularly attractive after all. Liu Jian had not eaten much in the restaurant to begin with, and now his stomach suddenly started growling, and he could hardly walk. "Where is your car parked?" Lin Weiyar asked. Liu Jian waved his hand and said, "Vice President Lin, how about this? You should go back alone first, and take a good bath to change your mood when you get home. What about you?" Lin Weiyar was stunned for a moment and asked subconsciously. Liu Jian shrugged, pointed to the old street with a large crowd not far away, and said with a smile, "I haven't eaten much yet, I'm going to eat something there." You? Lin Weiyar was speechless. Although she never really cared whether Liu Jian really sent her home, she was still upset when she heard that this guy had abandoned her for a bite of food. However, after all, they were no longer in a superior-subordinate relationship, and Lin Weiyar did not expect him to send her home. She snorted and said with a little dissatisfaction, "Then you can eat here." Cuckoo. But at this moment, Lin Weiyar, who had just turned around, heard a slight growl from her stomach. The sound was so sudden, yet people could still hear it clearly. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Vice President Lin, it looks like you are hungry too." Who said that? Lin Weiyar's pale face suddenly flashed a hint of red, and her eyes were slightly embarrassed. In fact, she hadn't eaten anything since morning, and she didn't touch any food in the private room before. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Just smell it, this fragrance is really amazing. Besides, even if you want to find out what happened just now, you have to have a full stomach to have the strength, right? Otherwise, if someone really harms you, you won't even have the strength to take revenge, right?" Lin Weiyar hesitated slightly. To be honest, she was indeed hungry. Thinking that what Liu Jian said made sense, she suddenly seemed to be determined and said, "Let's go." The two of them walked directly to the old street. The old street in front of you has been the commercial center of Jiangnan City since ancient times. Now with the changes of the times, this place seems to have become a beautiful landscape of Jiangnan City, and countless people who come here to travel will come here. The two of them walked along the old street and ordered a lot of food. Liu Jian had a good appetite. After finishing the crackers, he ordered some traditional delicacies such as egg cake and stinky tofu. Lin Weiyar's posture seemed much more elegant. Although she was also very hungry, the food she ordered was still very exquisite. She was holding a cup of milk tea in her hand and eating a crystal bun, and she looked quite sophisticated. I have to say, the appearance of a beauty like Lin Weiyar always attracts a lot of attention. Liu Jian walked together with the vice president of Chenghui Trading and earned a lot of godly rich points. Obviously, these people were thinking that Liu Jian must be a rich man, otherwise how could a girl like Lin Weiyar, who is so elegant and good-looking, be with him? Hearing the system prompt in his mind, Liu Jian was unusually unhappy this time. Am I not handsome enough? The two of them walked and stopped, and indeed ate a lot of food. Lin Weiyar's mood relaxed a little, and her brows also relaxed a little. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Vice President Lin, I've said before that the food here is pretty good, right?" After eating, Lin Weiyar also forced a smile. Liu Jian smiled and said, "I also want to thank Vice President Lin for treating me to so many delicious meals today." Thinking of this, Lin Weiyar was speechless. Liu Jian is really too stingy. The food they ate just now cost only 100 yuan at most, but this guy was so stingy that he insisted on letting himself pay the bill. Doesn't she know that it's gentlemanly to treat a girl to a bite to eat? Besides, there are so many men who want to pay the bill for her. But even though she complained, Lin Weiyar didn't take it to heart. She said calmly, "Are you full? If you are, I will go back first. Of course, I have to thank you today no matter what. Okay, I'll take you back then." After eating and drinking his fill, Liu Jian was not too stingy, as there was nothing urgent to do later. Lin Weiyar did not refuse. The two of them quickly arrived at the parking lot. When they saw Liu Jian opening the Raven Tun, Lin Weiyar suddenly opened her mouth wide and asked in surprise, "Is this car yours?" "Yes." Liu Jian chuckled and thought to himself, "Didn't expect that I also have such a luxury car." Lin Weiyar looked at Liu Jian strangely and felt quite surprised. After Liu Jian resigned from the company, she specifically looked at his file and knew that he was just an ordinary employee. How could he suddenly have such a luxury car? Chapter 37 Exploding Group of Colleagues. Damn. That guy looks like Liu Jian. Oh my god, when did he drive such a nice car? This is the Reventon, a limited edition of Lamborghini. Look, isn't that Vice President Lin? When did the most beautiful girl in our company get hooked up with Liu Jian? Oh my god, will all beautiful women eventually fall into the hands of rich men? About half an hour later, Liu Jian finally sent Lin Weiyar back to the building below Chenghui Commerce. However, as the two got out of the car, a group of people happened to be walking towards them. There is no doubt that these people are all from Chenghui Trading, and many of them are very familiar with Liu Jian. At this time, Liu Jian did not notice the group of people. He smiled and said, "Vice President Lin, I have completed my mission." See you later. Then he prepared to get in the car again. Liu Jian. Lin Weiya suddenly called him. Liu Jian looked back at her strangely. Lin Weiya said solemnly, Liu Jian, no matter what, today is all thanks to you, thank you. Liu Jian smiled and said, it's my honor to serve a beauty like Vice President Lin. After that, he got into the car, started the engine, and sped away. This handsome appearance made the group of animals not far away envious and jealous. Lin Weiya looked at the direction where Liu Jian was going, and couldn't help muttering, I really don't know how he can afford such a car. Is it relying on commission? Recalling that Liu Jian's commission was nearly 3 million before, she still had a little association, but thinking about it carefully, it was unlikely. After all, the naked car alone cost more than 1,500 Chinese yuan. Forget it, don't dwell on it. Lin Weiya quickly adjusted her mindset and looked towards the building in front of her. She still feels bad about what happened before. Although she vaguely guessed that it might be related to inheritance rights, she cannot let it go no matter what. I didn't expect this girl could hold back. She didn't even ask me where I got the car. Liu Jian in the car was still quite surprised. You know, he could clearly see that Lin Weiya's eyes were full of curiosity along the way, but this woman never gossiped to him from beginning to end. Liu Jian was indeed quite impressed by this. It was not easy to achieve this. Of course, it is a pity that he also lost a few points. But at this moment, suddenly, his cell phone rang with a series of rapid sounds. While waiting at the traffic light, he took a look and found that they were all messages from his former colleagues. I didn't expect they were all downstairs just now. There was a photo of him and Lin Weiya talking downstairs. From this angle, it was obvious that the person who took the photo was on the ground floor. Of course, at this time, all those people were shocked. They obviously didn't expect that Liu Jian, who was far inferior to them in the past, could drive such a good car and even have something to do with their dream goddess Lin Weiya. Liu Jian, whose car is this? Liu Jian, you seemed very happy chatting with my goddess just now. Tell me, what is your relationship? Liu Jian, you bastard, why do you still want to flirt with my goddess? Humph, if you don't tell the truth, I will never let you go. This group of guys seemed extremely indignant, and everyone was united in hatred towards Liu Jian, as if he was the enemy of the people. Liu Jian chuckled and replied, your goddess treated me to lunch today. It's over at the old street. After saying that, he threw the phone away and let them bombard him. Nearly 10 minutes passed. The beeping sound finally stopped, and Liu Jian occasionally glanced and found that the battlefield had moved to their work group. He was too lazy to investigate further, and at this moment, the phone rang again. Liu Jian originally thought it was a former colleague who called him again, but he didn't expect it was a stranger. After hesitating for a while, Liu Jian answered the call. Hello. Excuse me, are you Mr. Liu? Who are you? Mr. Liu, I'm Lao Fei. We met at the Western restaurant on Shinder Road a few days ago. Oh, it's Lao Fei, what do you want from me? It's like this, Mr. Liu. I came to the entertainment group today to attend a joint meeting of the presidents of all the entertainment companies in Jiangnan City. I happened to find that the girl who had dinner with you last time seemed to have been stabbed by someone. I guess her situation is not good now, so I thought I should tell you. Xie Yao. When Liu Jian heard this, his expression suddenly changed and his tone became slightly unfriendly. Old Fei on the other side naturally heard the sudden solemnity in Liu Jian's words, and was secretly happy that he had made the right bet today. He immediately said, the girl seems to be called Xie Yao. What's going on? The thing is, I heard that. Soon, Lao Fei briefly recounted what had happened. The more Liu Jian listened, the uglier his expression became. It turns out that Xie Yao, who returned to China this time, was originally preparing to sign a contract for a new drama, and had long been identified by the director as the female lead. But who would have thought that the investor now wanted to temporarily change the role? According to what Lao Fei knew, the root of all the problems lay with a rich second generation. This rich second generation is the prince of the entertainment journalism group where Lao Fei is attending a meeting today. He relies on his father's prestige and financial resources to control a lot of resources and voice in the entertainment industry. He is often extremely arrogant and very dandy. He has hooked up with countless beauties in the past few years. This morning, this rich second generation also happened to go to the entertainment journalism group and met Xie Yao, who was about to sign a formal contract. He fell in love with her at first sight, so he forced the director team to make a temporary replacement, wanting to use the leading actress and more resources in the future in exchange for Xie Yao. Of course, Xie Yao rejected all of this sternly and simply gave up this great opportunity. But who would have thought that this rich second generation still refused to give up, and had already made a harsh statement in the circle that whoever dared to use Xie Yao in the future would never let the other party have an easy time. What's more important is that Xie Yao had already signed a contract with an agency, and the boss of that company seemed to be the younger brother of the rich second generation's father, so the boss was forcing Xie Yao. If she failed to get the role this time, it would be a breach of contract, and she would naturally have to pay a large sum of money. Xie Yao, who had just arrived, had no idea that the entertainment industry was so complicated. She was currently entangled with those people in the company. This is outrageous. How dare he set his sights on Xie Yao? I'll destroy him. Liu Jian was furious and looked very angry. He stomped his foot and quickly rushed to the address provided by Lao Fei. Chapter 38 Entertainment Group. Half an hour later, Liu Jian appeared downstairs of the Entertainment Journalism Group. The commercial building in front of us is located in the South City Business Center, and its geographical location is quite advantageous. The Entertainment Group is a well-known enterprise with strong strength, and its main business is entertainment products. The company's business includes film and television production, film distribution, etc. It cannot be called the leader in the entire Chinese entertainment industry, but at least it is well known in Jiangnan City, otherwise Lao Fei would not have come here for a meeting. Soon, Liu Jian walked towards the building. As soon as he arrived at the door, two security guards stopped him. One of them said, "I'm sorry, sir. You can't enter the building without a pass." Snort. Liu Jian was already in a bad mood, and he became even angrier when he saw the two men trying to stop him. He took out his phone and called Lao Fei, who came down from upstairs in a hurry in less than 3 minutes. "Mr. Liu, you've been waiting for a long time." Old Fei trotted directly from the elevator entrance, his fat body swaying up and down, looking a little funny. Liu Jian said in a deep voice, "Lead the way." Lao Fei said hurriedly, "Okay, Mr. Liu." Then he led the way to the elevator not far away. Oh my god! Who was that person just now? How could Fatty Fei from Panhua Entertainment be so respectful to him? Yes, the company that this fat guy works for, Panhua Entertainment, is an entertainment company under the Yunqian Group. Usually, many people have to curry favor with him. In our building alone, there are many female celebrities who are begging to see this fat guy. Now he actually comes downstairs to pick someone up in person. It's really unbelievable. At this time, the two security guards were talking about it, their eyes full of curiosity about Liu Jian's identity. Of course, the two were fortunate that although they had stopped Liu Jian just now, they were generally polite, otherwise they might not have been able to keep their jobs. Fei Danan, who entered the elevator, quickly said, "Just now, that kid Zhang Qi, the prince of the entertainment group, has said that if Miss Xie does not agree to his request today, Miss Xie will have to pay a large amount of liquidated damages and will completely disappear from the entertainment industry in the future." Humph! What an arrogant tone. Liu Jian's face darkened and a strong anger flashed in his eyes. Fei Dinan naturally saw that Liu Jian was in a bad mood, and immediately said, "But don't worry, Mr. Liu, you are here. I think even if Zhang Qi is arrogant, he will definitely give you some face." Liu Jian frowned and said, "Old Fei, you are the helmsman of our Panhua Entertainment after all. Do you think the other party will show you even a little bit of kindness just because you say something?" He was still quite confused as he spoke. Fei Dinan smiled bitterly and said, "Boss Liu, I think you may not know that our Panhua Entertainment and Yuji Group are two competing companies. Last time, we had several battles over the copyrights of several films and the contracts of entertainers. Our relationship is really not good. If I were to step in, let alone save the situation would probably get worse." Liu Jian said in a deep voice, "Which one is stronger, this entertainment journal group or Fanhua Entertainment?" Forehead. Fei Dinan's face changed slightly, and he said slowly, "Although Panhua Entertainment, where I work, is an entertainment company under Yunqian Group, it is only a branch after all. It is also a test move for the group's strategy to get involved in the film and television industry. It has not yet been listed, and its valuation is only about 7 billion. However, Yuji Group is a long-established film and television company in Jiangnan City. It has been developed for more than 20 years. Its current market value is about 20 billion. Even if its strength is far inferior to that of a behemoth like Yunqian Group, it is still very strong in the film and television industry. Of course, as far as I know, the investment department of our Yunqian Group also invested in UG Group in the early years, and it seems to have about 15% of the shares. Oh, really? Liu Jian raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Humph. A guy with a market value of only 20 billion dares to touch my woman. He really overestimates his own abilities." Ferdinand raised his eyebrows slightly. Just at this moment, Liu Jian took out his phone and quickly dialed Su Jinsi's number. He said coldly, "Jinsi, I don't care what power you use, but you must take over 51% of the shares of UG Group within an hour." Wow. When Fei Dinan heard Liu Jian say this, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. Mr. Liu is indeed worthy of being Mr. Liu, he is really generous. At this time, Xie Yao was blocked in a room. Not far away sat a young man in his 20s. He looked unkempt and seemed a bit dissolute. Xie Yao never expected that things would turn out like this. "I was very happy to come here to sign the contract today. In fact, things were going quite smoothly in the beginning. But until I met this person in front of me, everything changed completely. I want to sign the contract." The agency asked her to pay compensation. This person actually wanted to threaten her and force her to do things against her will. This was indeed quite infuriating in Xie Yao's opinion, and of course she refused. But the consequence of refusing is being stuck here like she is now. She can go out. If you go out, it means a sky-high penalty for breach of contract. Although Xie Yao had accumulated a considerable amount of savings over the years with the support of her family and her own far-sighted investments, the penalty of nearly 30 million was still an astronomical price for her. At this time, Xie Yao seemed extremely angry yet helpless. Why did this happen to her? Zhang Qi, who was not far away, said with a smile, "Xie Yao, what do you think? I tell you, as long as you agree to my request, I will make you the heroine and you will be famous all over the country." His eyes were full of greed. Although he had hooked up with many beauties, and many girls would throw themselves at him, to be honest, he had never met a girl with such an outstanding temperament as Xie Yao, and he fell deeply in love with her at first sight. Xie Yao frowned and said coldly, "Zhang Qi, I will never agree to your request." He. Zhang Qi leaned on the leather sofa, his face full of indifference. He smiled again and said, "Many people have said this to me before, but in the end they all gave in. Xie Yao, I remind you again, if you don't agree to me today, then you will never be able to get involved in the entertainment industry in your life, and I'm afraid you will never be able to pay off this sky-high penalty in your lifetime." Xie Yao was so angry that her body trembled, and her face turned ugly. She gritted her teeth and said, "Zhang Qi, don't dream. Even if I, Xie Yao, can only do nothing in this life, I will not sell myself out." Zhang Qi snorted coldly and said, "Don't be so shameless." Chapter 39 Domineering Liu Jian. Led by Fei Dinan, Liu Jian went straight to the 32nd floor. This floor is the president's office, and it is also where Zhang Qi usually spends time. Although he had never been here before, Lao Fei had attended several meetings here with the CEOs of other entertainment companies and knew of the existence of this place, so he quickly brought Liu Jian here. But when the two walked out of the elevator, they found that there were two bodyguards guarding the door. These two bodyguards looked quite burly and did not look like ordinary people. "Is Zhang Qi in there?" Liu Jian asked in a deep voice, but his expression was not good at all. From where they were, they could faintly hear a noisy sound coming from inside, and even the cheering laughter of the girl. The two bodyguards naturally heard that the man was not friendly. Although they did not know Liu Jian, they had seen the fat man next to him when they were with Zhang Xiao before, and knew that he seemed to be the boss of an entertainment company. At the moment, they still asked in a rather restrained manner, "Who are you?" Liu Jian said coldly, "I'm asking you a question." The man's face turned a little ugly, and he said slowly, "No one is allowed to enter without Master Zhang's permission." Snort. Liu Jian cursed himself for not bringing Liu Hui and the others, but it was probably too late now. Fei Dinan, who was standing next to him, also said angrily, "Do you know who he is? I tell you, even if your chairman comes here in person, he has to pour tea and water for Mr. Liu." The expressions of both of them changed slightly. "Are you going to let me go or not?" Liu Jian didn't have time to chat with the two of them. He suddenly remembered something and his eyes lit up. He quickly spent 3,000 points in the system mall to exchange for a quick acting strength pill. the effect of this pill is still very strong. It can increase a person's strength several times in a short period of time. Of course, the only regret is that it only lasts for 3 minutes. The two bodyguards were a little surprising. I wonder if they were really loyal or if they knew that Zhang Qi would definitely blame them if they let them in. At this time, the two of them refused to budge. No one is allowed in without Master Zhang's permission. Then don't blame me. Liu Jian attacked instantly and hit the two men with his right fist. Bang! Bang! Two voices suddenly came out. Although the two men blocked Liu Jian's fist, they could not withstand the violent force at all. The two were knocked out at the same time. I'll go. Ferdinand was extremely surprised when he saw this look and blurted it out. Yes. Fei Dinan had always thought that this new CEO was just a weak rich second generation, but who would have thought that he was so strong that even his bodyguards were no match for him? Walk. Liu Jian snorted, then stepped over the two men and walked inside. But after walking a few steps, I saw a hall inside. There were many men and women sitting in the hall. They all looked very young and the scene was quite embarrassing. Who are you? The sudden scene stunned Liu Jian. On the contrary, Ferdinand seemed to be accustomed to this and just looked at it with disdain. Mr. Fei. One of them, a effeminate-looking man in his 30s, suddenly stood up and said with a surprised look on his face. Ferdinand looked at the other person, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Suddenly he seemed to remember something and said coldly, "Oh, I remember you. You seem to be the assistant of Zhang Qi." "Yes, Mr. Fei." Zhao Yang nodded, his eyes full of curiosity. "You have to know that Fei Dinan is one of the bigwigs in the entertainment circle of Jiangnan City. People like him usually make friends with people at the same level as their own chairman. Why did he suddenly come here today?" Of course, although it was strange, Zhao Yang didn't take Ferdinand seriously. After all, the other party was just an employee. Even though his company, Panhua Entertainment, had the support of the towering Yunqian Group, it was still no match for the Yuji Group in the Jiangnan City entertainment circle. So he was not too nervous at this moment. Liu Jian asked in a deep voice, "Where is Xie Yao?" Xie Yao. Zhao Yang's expression changed slightly, and there was something unnatural in his eyes. "What's this got to do with you?" The young girls were fine, but the young men who had just put on their clothes were all hot-tempered. Some of them were not in the entertainment industry and didn't know Ferdinand at all. Seeing their good thing being ruined, they were naturally unhappy. Court death. Liu Jian simply picked up the ashtray from the corner of the table and threw it over. Bang! How strong is his hand now? The ashtray was thrown accurately on the guy's thigh, and he screamed in pain and fell to the ground with a pale face. Quiet. The whole place fell silent instantly. No one present had expected that this guy's hands were so strong. Seeing the man who had been shouting earlier fall to the ground in pain, holding his thigh, many people were stunned. Nearly 10 seconds passed. They finally came to their senses, and someone among them shouted, "Quick, quick to save young Master Lin." As they spoke, the scene became chaotic. Of course, most people were shocked and stood still. Liu Jian sneered as he scanned the crowd present and said proudly, "If anyone wants to die, come here quickly." Everyone was angry but dared not speak out. Even Zhao Yang over there felt that this guy was too scary. He seemed to be trembling at this moment. He unconsciously took 2 steps and tried to stay away from this plague god as much as possible. "Do you want me to say it again?" At this moment, Liu Jian's eyes fell on Zhao Yang again. Zhao Yang's body trembled violently, and he froze there. He hurriedly said, "Boss Fei, this is the place of the entertainment group. Even if you want to find our Master Zhang, you can't do it here." He subconsciously thought that the man in front of him was Ferdinand's subordinate, so he spoke directly to Ferdinand. Fei Dinan said coldly, "Humph, so what? I tell you, if you know what's best for you, tell Mr. Liu where Xie Yao is." Mr. Liu. Zhao Yang was very surprised to hear that Ferdinand seemed very respectful to the young man next to him. Isn't he Ferdinand's subordinate? Of course, although he didn't know Liu Jian's background, he didn't dare to betray Zhang Qi. His eyes flickered but he refused to say more. Snort. Liu Jian slapped them directly. He had no good feelings towards these people who were making trouble here. Zhao Yang suddenly fell on the sofa, with stars in his eyes, as if he was about to faint. Liu Jian looked around and found that there seemed to be another door inside. It seems that I just talked a lot of nonsense. Thinking of this, Liu Jian walked in without hesitation, with an indescribable hostility in his eyes. Zhao Yang struggled to get up from the sofa. His face changed and he said, "Quick, quick, call someone over. Otherwise, young Master Zhang will definitely suffer." Unexpectedly, this guy was still very loyal and was actually considering the other party at this time. Chapter 40. Who is this person? Zhang Qi in the room seemed very impatient. Although there are many top beauties in the entertainment industry, it is rare to find a top-notch beauty like Xie Yao who has both excellent looks and outstanding temperament. Naturally, his heart is burning with excitement at this moment. However, Xie Yao, who was not far away, kept glaring at him angrily, with no intention of giving in. Zhang Qi snorted coldly and said impatiently, "Xie Yao, don't blame me for not reminding you. Our entertainment group is the top performing arts company in the entire Jiangnan city. If you follow me, I guarantee that you will be famous all over the country. But if you choose to be stubborn today, don't blame me for completely banning you and making you pay for my debt for the rest of your life." Xie Yao gritted her teeth, her face was angry and pale, but she did not hesitate at all. She just said coldly, "Zhang Qi, don't dream. I will never sell my body, I might as well give up my dream." "Humph, you really don't want to drink the toast and then drink the forfeit." Zhang Qi's face turned really ugly. He had never met such a stubborn guy. Looking at Xie Yao's graceful body not far away and imagining the lewd scene outside the office, he finally couldn't suppress the impulse in his heart and said with a lewd smile, "In this case, don't blame me for being rude. Today, whether you are willing or not, I have to take you down." Then he walked quickly. What are you doing? If you come over here again, I'll call for help." Xie Yao's expression suddenly changed, her eyes filled with horror. Zhang Qi quickly came to Xie Yao's side. Seeing Xie Yao's panicked face, he became more and more excited. He couldn't help but laugh and said, "Go ahead and yell. They are all my people outside. No one will answer you even if you yell your throat out." Then he rushed over. "Help!" Xie Yao was shouting with a pale face. Bang! Just at this moment, the door of the room was suddenly kicked open. Zhang Qi, who was about to pounce on Xie Yao, suddenly stopped there. He glared and found that there was a young man standing at the door. The man was about 23 or 24 years old. He was not very handsome, but he had a tall and slender figure and looked very masculine. The person who came was naturally Liu Jian. "Liu Jian!" Xie Yao suddenly cried out in surprise, her eyes filled with excitement. Liu Jian quickly came to Xie Yao's side and asked in a deep voice, "Are you okay?" Although her face was a little pale and she looked a little panicked, Xie Yao quickly calmed down. She shook her head vigorously, cried with joy, and said, "I'm fine." "That's good." Liu Jian felt relieved when he saw that Xie Yao did not look like she had been violated. He said softly, "I am here, you don't have to be afraid." "Where have I heard this before?" "Yes. When I accidentally fell off the cliff and was hanging on the branch, Liu Jian said the same thing to me." The past events were still vivid in my mind, and Xie Yao felt an inexplicable strong sense of security in her heart. She nodded sweetly and said softly, "Yeah." But she quickly raised her head again and asked in surprise, "By the way, why are you here?" Liu Jian pointed at Lao Fei next to him and said, "He told me that you seem to be in some trouble here." Fei Dinan said in a flattering tone, "Hello, Miss Xie. Just now, Mr. Liu heard that you were in trouble, but he rushed over from outside. Mr. Liu really cares about you." Forehead. When Xie Yao heard this, a faint blush flashed across her pretty face. Did he come here just because he heard that I was in danger? Could it be that he is not so cruel to me? I don't know why Xie Yao felt a faint sense of joy in her heart. "Boss Fei, what are you planning to do?" Zhang Qi recognized Fei Dinan very quickly, his eyes flickered, but he was still very surprised. Fei Dinan was the rival of their entertainment group, and the two companies were usually quite at odds with each other. Why did he suddenly appear here at this time? Was he here specifically to find fault with him? Fei Dinan sneered and said, "Mr. Zhang, it's not that I want to pick a fight with you." Zhang Qi instantly understood what Fei Dinan meant, and his eyes fell on Liu Jian. He immediately said in a deep voice, "Who are you? Who let you in?" While he was talking, many people rushed in through the door. These people included the two bodyguards who had fallen to the ground earlier and the group of men and women outside the office. Of course, in addition to them, there were nearly 10 security guards, most of whom were holding sticks in their hands and looked aggressive. However, Liu Jian was not afraid at all. He did not answer Zhang Qi's question, but asked coldly, "Were you the one who was looking for trouble with Xie Yao just now?" Zhang Qi's face turned ugly. This guy's attitude was too arrogant, wasn't it? You know, Zhang Qi has always been a big shot in this circle. Countless people have to curry favor with him, the prince of the entertainment group. But who would have thought that this guy would actually talk to him like this? Thinking of this, Zhang Qi said in a deep voice, "Humph, so what? I tell you, I have my eyes on Xie Yao. If you know what's good for you, don't be an eyesore here." Very good. Liu Jian's eyes were full of teasing, and he said lightly, "It's been a long time since anyone dared to talk to me like this." Fei Dinan cast a sympathetic look and thought to himself, Zhang Qi could have offended anyone else, but he had to offend Mr. Liu. Har har, he is really tired of living. If it weren't for Fei Dinan's presence, Zhang Qi would have ordered his men to kick him out. Unable to suppress his anger any longer, he yelled at the security guards on both sides, "What are you still doing here? Drag this guy out. I don't want to see him again." "Yes, Master Zhang." The security guards on both sides immediately received the order and prepared to arrest Liu Jian. However, Fei Dinan roared and stepped forward, saying, "If anyone dares to touch Mr. Liu, I will fight him." Perhaps because they were afraid of Fei Dinan's identity, the security guards on both sides did not dare to step forward and blast him. He. This guy Lao Fei really knows how to flatter. Although he knew that Fei Dinan was just pretending, Liu Jian was still slightly moved. He patted Lao Fei's shoulder gently and said, "Get out of the way. Let's see what they can do to me." "Yes, Mr. Liu." Ferdinand immediately retreated, but his eyes were firm as he said, "But don't worry, if they want to do something, they have to step over my body first." Zhang Qi frowned slightly, feeling extremely confused. Of course, he knew exactly what Fei Dinan was. Although Panhua Entertainment was not as big as the entertainment group, it was still a big shot in the Jiangnan entertainment industry. Usually, many people would try to curry favor with him, but now he was so respectful and flattering to him. Could it be that this guy was really someone important? Chapter 41 Xie Yao is my woman. Not only Zhang Qi, but even Xie Yao was surprised again. When she met Fei Dinan in the restaurant before, she didn't know his identity, so she was just surprised that Liu Jian was doing well now. But just now, an agent told her that this was the boss of Jiangnan City's top entertainment company, and she was naturally shocked. When did Liu Jian become so respectful even to people like this? Ding, the shock from Zhang Qi is detected, godly points +4. Ding, Xie Yao's surprise is detected, godly points +3. In just a few seconds, Liu Jian gained a lot of godly rich points. He looked around and said proudly, "Humph, a mere young master from the entertainment group actually dares to bully men and women here. It's really ridiculous." Zhang Qi's expression changed several times before he said coldly, "Stinky boy, who are you? You don't deserve to know who I am." Liu Jian said this calmly, his tone surprisingly full of pride. "You?" Zhang Qi was so angry that his whole body was shaking and he looked extremely angry. You have to know that Zhang Qi is at least the prince of a group with a market value of 20 billion yuan and one of the few top rich second generations in Jiangnan City. Apart from those few most arrogant ones, he is also a well-known figure in the circle of dandies. But who would have thought that this guy is even more arrogant than himself? Thinking of this, he shouted angrily, "Assholes! What are you still doing here? Get these two guys out." Yes. After all, this is the territory of the entertainment group, so these security guards naturally listened to Zhang Qi. Liu Jian. Xie Yao still seemed a little worried, fearing that if the two sides really fought, it would be disadvantageous to Liu Jian. Fei Dinan knew Liu Jian's terrifying skills, and he was still pretending to flatter him, "Boss Liu, don't worry, I will never let them hurt you." Do we really have to take action? I wonder what Lao Fei would think if he knew that Liu Jian was only a 3-minute player. Although Liu Jian was not panicking at this time, he was also a little helpless. According to the system, the strength pill can only be taken once a day. Now even if he has the godly points, he can't improve his combat power. Suddenly. Just at this moment. Liu Jian's cell phone rang and he looked delighted. Sure enough, the caller was Su Jinsi. Liu Jian looked at the people around him teasingly, and he answered the phone leisurely. After hearing Su Jinsi's confirmation, a teasing smile crossed his lips again. He sneered and said, "Har har, Zhang Qi, do you really think you are the prince of this group?" "What do you mean by that?" Zhang Qi frowned, looking a little gloomy. Although Fei Dinan didn't hear what Su Jinsi said, he guessed Liu Jian's trump card with a flicker of his eyes. He said with a sneer, "Zhang Qi, I advise you to kowtow to Mr. Liu and admit your mistake, otherwise your father can't save you." He said the last word with a quite comfortable tone. You know, although he is the president of Pan China Entertainment, he is always suppressed by the entertainment journalists group and has been humiliated by them several times. Especially when Zhang Qi in front of him has been mocking him openly and secretly, Fei Dinan has been full of anger for a long time. Today, with his own president personally supervising him, he is of course full of confidence. Humph! This is ridiculous. When have I, Zhang Qi, ever been modest to anyone? Although Zhang Qi didn't know where the other party's confidence came from, he thought that he didn't have any weaknesses that could be caught by others, so he naturally had nothing to be afraid of. So at this moment, he didn't want to care about the other party's origins at all. He just sneered and said, "How many times do I have to say it? Get out of here." The security guards on both sides immediately surrounded him and wanted to carry Liu Jian out. "Stop." However, at this moment, an angry shout suddenly came from a distance. Everyone saw a man in his 50s standing at the door. He had a square face, his complexion was as black as charcoal, and his eyes were filled with intense anger. Chairman of the entertainment group Zhang Donglai. Most of the people present had surprise on their faces. Even Zhang Qi's subordinates and cronies like Zhao Yang were silent. You have to know that Zhang Donglai has a bad temper and he usually doesn't treat them well. "Dad." Zhang Qi blurted out, also quite surprised. "Normally, my father doesn't like to come here, and I don't know what brought him here today." However, Zhang Donglai ignored Zhang Qi. After looking at Fei Dinan, he came to Liu Jian's side, with a complicated but respectful expression. "Sir, are you Mr. Liu, the new president of Yunqian Group?" "Good." Liu Jian spoke coldly and arrogantly, not taking Zhang Donglai seriously at all. "The new president of Yunqian Group." As soon as these words came out, most of the people around them trembled violently. Even Xie Yao looked at Liu Jian in disbelief, her eyes full of shock. Although she had been abroad for 2 years, she had heard of the name of Yunqian Group. This is a large-scale comprehensive group with a market value of over 200 billion yuan. It is the top enterprise in the entire Jiangnan city. As early as when they were in college, many classmates wanted to join the Yunqian Group. After all, the benefits and treatment there are famously generous. But who would have thought that Liu Jian is now in charge of this company? What is going on? Didn't Liu Jian come from the mountains? How did he become the president of such a large group? Damn it! At this moment, Zhang Qi's face suddenly became extremely ugly, and he cursed in his heart. Although I had some doubts about Liu Jian's identity before, thinking that he was at most a second-generation rich man, I never thought that this guy was actually the president of Yunqian Group, which is a behemoth that cannot be compared with the entertainment group. Zhang Donglai took a deep breath and said slowly, "Mr. Liu, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you were interested in coming to the entertainment group today, otherwise I would have come to greet you a long time ago." Liu Jian smiled and said, "We are here to inspect, but of course we can't do it in a big way." Inspection. Everyone's mouth corners twitched slightly when they heard this. Although you are the president of Yunqian Group, this entertainment group is not your family business. What are you inspecting? However, Zhang Donglai was trembling all over when he heard it. He said bitterly, "I heard about what happened just now. I didn't expect Mr. Liu to be so generous." Liu Jian said coldly, "To be honest, I have no interest in the entertainment journal group. But who dared your precious son to bully my woman?" "Humph, don't blame me for being rude." "My woman?" When Xie Yao heard these 4 words, a blush suddenly appeared on her pretty face. "Although I was in an extremely dangerous situation just now, I don't know why hearing this felt sweeter than eating honey. I haven't felt that feeling for a long time." Chapter 42. From now on, Yunqian is the entertainment reporter. "You mean?" Zhang Donglai glanced at Xie Yao who was standing beside him, and suddenly he understood something. Thinking of the news he had just received, he was immediately furious, and slapped Zhang Qi in the face, saying angrily, "You little bastard, I don't care which woman you play with, but now you are so bold that you dare to bully Mr. Liu's woman. Do you want to piss me off to death?" A strong pain came from his face, but at this time Zhang Qi was a little dazed by the slap. After a long while, he said with a grievance, "Dad, how would I know that this is his woman?" Yes. If Zhang had known earlier that this was the woman of the president of Yunqian Group, he wouldn't have been so stupid as to insist on seducing her. Thinking of this, he even glanced at Xie Yao with resentment, and the meaning was very obvious. "You bastard, if you had told me earlier that you were having an affair with the president of Yunqian Group, then I wouldn't have to go to so much trouble to threaten you." However, Zhang Donglai simply ignored his words. The more he looked at him, the angrier he got. He slapped him again and said, "I've taught you to play with women all day long and cause trouble for me. Now, kneel down and kowtow to Mr. Liu to admit your mistake." "Dad." The two slaps were delivered without mercy, causing Zhang Qi's cheeks to feel burning pain. Since he was a child, Zhang Donglai had never beaten him like this. The always arrogant Zhang Qi immediately said angrily, "I won't kneel." Although he also knew that he shouldn't offend a guy like Liu Jian, but he couldn't kneel down at the moment. Otherwise, if the news got out, would he still be able to stay in the upper class of Jiangnan City? "Are you trying to piss me off to death?" Zhang Donglai kicked Zhang Qi hard in the hollow of his knee. "R." Zhang Qi suddenly fell forward to the ground, as if he was really kneeling in front of Liu Jian. "Call." The young masters nearby and Zhao Yang and his men were all as quiet as a cicada, not daring to make a sound. After all, everyone could see that Zhang Donglai was in a rage at the moment. Even though they were usually very arrogant, they could only deal with ordinary people. Who would dare to confront the chairman of a group with a market value of 20 billion yuan now? Liu Jian sneered, "I can't accept such a generous gift from Master Zhang." Zhang Qi had never been insulted like this before. He was immediately furious and tried to stand up. He said, "Don't think I'm afraid of you just because you're the president of Yunqian Group. I'm telling you, I..." Bang! Before he could finish his words, Zhang Donglai kicked him again. Zhang Qi fell to the ground again. He said in confusion and grievance, "Dad. What are you doing? Even if this guy is the president of Yunqian Group, so what? We entertainment reporters have been working in the entertainment industry for more than 20 years and are very powerful. Even if Yunqian goes all out to enter the entertainment industry, they can't compete with us." He. Liu Jian squatted down and gently patted Zhang Qi's cheek, causing the latter to grit his teeth in pain. He then smiled and said, "Perhaps the entertainment journalism group does have some strength in film and television, but now, it is uncertain whether the entertainment journalists are still the entertainment journalists of your Zhang family." "What do you mean by that?" Zhang Qi didn't care about Liu Jian's provocative behavior just now, and asked with a look of surprise on his face. Zhang Donglai glanced at Liu Jian with resentful eyes, and said dejectedly, "Just now, Mr. Liu bought a lot of our Yuji shares from several other institutions. Now Yunqian Group has acquired 51% of Yuji's shares." "Good." Liu Jian looked at the stunned Zhang Qi with a teasing look, and proudly announced, "From now on, the entertainment reporter is already the entertainment reporter of Yunqian Group." "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible." Zhang Qi simply didn't believe the facts in front of him, and kept shaking his head, saying, "Our Yuji Group is a group with a market value of 20 billion. Even if Yunqian already holds 15% of the shares, you still have to acquire at least 36% of the funds to control Yuji. These shares are worth at least 7 billion according to the current market value, and if you want to acquire them in a short period of time, you will have to use at least 10 billion, or even 15 billion. Har, I didn't realize you're quite knowledgeable." Liu Jian's face was full of joking, but he said arrogantly, "Yes, it did cost a lot of money to acquire these shares just now, about 12 billion, but young Master Liu, I am not short of money." Arrogant. It's really too arrogant. No one expected that 12 billion yuan of funds seemed to be nothing in Liu Jian's eyes, and what was more important was that this guy's purpose in fighting for control was simply because Zhang Qi bullied his woman. He lost at least 8 billion for his woman. Isn't that too generous? Liu Jian. Xie Yao's delicate body was trembling slightly, and she didn't know what to say at this moment. Liu Jian gently patted Xie Yao's shoulder and said solemnly, "From today on, as long as I am here, no one will dare to bully you." "Thank you." Xie Yao's eyes were filled with intense emotion and gratitude. She actually stood on tiptoe and gently kissed Liu Jian on the cheek. Although it was just a light kiss, it still made her face blush. Liu Jian was confused. Xie Yao actually kissed him on her own initiative. If the boys in my school saw this, they would definitely drown themselves with saliva. Oh my god. This girl is so good at picking up girls. Even if I were a woman, I would probably fall completely under the generosity of Mr. Liu. At this time, the young masters around were all sighing with emotion, and the third-rate young actors and some young models who followed them had bright eyes and cast glances of admiration and obsession at Liu Jian. Ding, admiration from Lin Chan undetected, godly rich points +4. Ding, detection of shock from Sun Yue, godly rich points +5. The prompts from the system kept ringing in his mind, but Liu Jian didn't care at all. A faint arc crossed his lips and he smiled. Xie Yao, you are taking advantage of me openly. I didn't expect you to be such a person. Liu Jian. Stop talking nonsense. Xie Yao blushed immediately and beat Liu Jian secretly. Har har har. Although I have known Xie Yao for many years, I have never seen her behave like such a shy little girl. I was very happy in my heart. It seems that the money was well spent. However, the person who was most unwilling and angry at this moment was probably Zhang Donglai. He was lying at home peacefully and never expected that in less than 2 hours, his own group would change its status and become the meat on the dish of others. Even if I want to curse Zhang Qi as a bastard now, it's too late. The only thing we can do is see how to save it, or at least discuss how to get back control. After all, money is not such a necessary thing for him. The group is his lifeblood. Chapter 43, The Battle for Controlling Rights. No matter what. This matter must be resolved. Thinking of this, Zhang Donglai forced a smile and said slowly, Boss Liu, the entertainment reporter is not an important asset for Yunqian Group, but it is my life's work. I know it was my son who offended Boss Liu this time, and I am really sorry. Don't worry, I will teach him a lesson after I go back and give you a satisfactory explanation. As for the shares of the entertainment reporter, I hope you concede them. Entertainment reporters' shares really mean nothing to me. Liu Jian said this calmly, but his expression suddenly turned cold, and he added, but I am still very interested in how you teach your son a lesson. Bang! Zhang Donglai slapped him again. Dad! Zhang Qi immediately fell to the ground and screamed in pain. It can be seen that Zhang Donglai is also a ruthless person. He said to the security guards on both sides without hesitation, beat him. Teach him a good lesson and let him know that there are some people you can't offend. The security guards hesitated there for a moment. Don't you even listen to me. Zhang Donglai spoke with a gloomy face, looking extremely angry. Since the old man had spoken, the crowd certainly had no intention of disobeying, and they immediately took up the sticks and started beating them, though they were still somewhat gentle when they started. Don't you have enough to eat? If anyone doesn't work hard, get out tomorrow. Zhang Donglai naturally knew that Liu Jian would never feel comfortable unless he took ruthless action. He certainly would not deliberately cover up for Zhang Qi on these details at this time. Besides, he was really angry this time and he should teach Zhang Qi a lesson. Bang! 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 The nearly 10 security guards had no choice but to take ruthless action upon seeing this, and Zhang Qi immediately let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Miserable. It's really miserable. Zhao Yang and others turned their heads away, unable to bear to watch. This prince of entertainment reporters has always been arrogant and domineering. When has he ever been so miserable? Even Xie Yao didn't dare to watch this scene and hid behind Liu Jian involuntarily. As for Liu Jian and Fei Dinan, they saw through Zhang Donglai's tricks and stood there calmly, especially Liu Jian, who watched the scene with great interest. It lasted nearly 10 minutes. Zhang Donglai still felt sorry for his son after all, so he waved his hand. At this time, Zhang Qi was lying on the ground, his whole body was covered with bruises and blood, and he looked really miserable. Zhang Donglai said in a deep voice, Director Liu, my son has lacked discipline since he was young. I am really sorry for you this time. I wonder if you are satisfied with this now. Liu Jian laughed and said, Boss Zhang is really capable of doing this. Zhang Donglai gritted his teeth and said helplessly, this guy has a very wild temper. If we don't teach him a lesson now, something bad will happen sooner or later. Today is not only to vent Mr. Liu's anger, but also to fulfill my fatherly responsibilities. Liu Jian, forget it. When Xie Yao saw that Zhang Qi was beaten so badly, she couldn't help but plead for him. Liu Jian nodded and said, since Xie Yao has said so, let's end this matter here. Thank you, Mr. Liu. Zhang Donglai said gratefully, his eyes flickering slightly, and then said, by the way, about the shares of entertainment journalists. Liu Jian smiled and said, I know that Mr. Zhang regards entertainment reporters as his life, and I won't force him to do anything. How about this? As long as Mr. Zhang can afford the price, then everything can be discussed. I am willing to buy out 15% of the entertainment company shares held by Mr. Liu. Zhang Donglai quickly gave a number, but soon paused, and after a little hesitation, he said, "As for the price, I can buy it for 5.5 billion. Har har, Director Zhang really has a good plan." Liu Jian looked at the latter teasingly, his eyes full of mockery. According to what he knew, Zhang Donglai controlled nearly 31% of the shares of Entertainment Reporter. If he bought another 15% of the shares, although it would not be absolute control, no one on the board of directors could challenge him. Instead, Liu Jian's shares would be locked up. Zhang Donglai's eyes flickered and he smiled bitterly. "Boss Liu, I'm just a small business owner. I'm not as big as Boss Liu's Yunqian Group, which can easily take out 12 billion to acquire other people's companies." There was a hint of resentment in his voice at the end. Liu Jian shrugged and said, "Since you have no money, what else is there to say?" Then he prepared to leave. Etc. Zhang Donglai never thought that Liu Jian would leave as soon as he said so. He gritted his teeth and said, "Then Mr. Liu, please name a price." Liu Jian then stopped and said with a smile, "To be honest, now that I have control, I really don't want to sell it. Anyway, I, Yunqian, have plenty of money. You?" Zhang Donglai was furious. He never expected that Liu Jian would have such a plan. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Boss Zhang, don't be angry. To be honest, I have no interest in Entertainment Reporters, but I just spent so much money that I can't lose money, right? Let me say this, if Boss Zhang can come up with 10 billion, I am willing to cede 20% of the shares." Oh my god. It's really cruel. Everyone around gasped. No one expected that Liu Jian's asking price would be so high. You know, although Liu Jian used 12 billion to carry out the acquisition before, he actually got 36% of the shares. But now 10 billion is only exchanged for 20% of the shares. Isn't this equivalent to cutting the meat of the Zhang family? Zhang Donglai was so angry that he was shaking all over and his face turned pale. Liu Jian said calmly, "Mr. Zhang, take your time to think about the price. When you have an answer, come find my assistant." After that, he took Xie Yao and Fei Dinan away. "Liu Jian, isn't the offer you just made a bit too harsh?" Xie Yao was still worried for Liu Jian. After all, Zhang Qi was at fault in this matter. Now Liu Jian was essentially messing with the other party's group, which was considered offensive. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Old Fei, what do you think?" Fei Dinan shook his head and said, "Ms. Xia, I don't think the price Mr. Liu wants is expensive at all. First of all, the entertainment group has been deeply involved in the entertainment industry in Jiangnan City for many years, and its assets and background in this area are still very strong. Since they have obtained the controlling stake, they can do it themselves. Of course, if Mr. Liu is willing to let go, he won't make much money. After all, Mr. Liu spent 12 billion to obtain the controlling stake, and a simple conversion only earned a difference of 10. The real profit was actually made by those institutions." Xie Yao was so smart that she was naturally relieved when she heard this. Liu Jian said coldly, "Zhang Donglai thinks that this matter can be settled by just teaching Zhang Qi a lesson. Humph. If you dare to bully my woman, then the Zhang family must be made to pay. As for his revenge? Har har, do you think I, Liu Jian, am afraid of him?" His words were full of domineering at the end. "Who is your woman?" When Xie Yao heard the middle part, her pretty face turned red and she spat softly. Chapter 44 Gentle women have the best fortune. Boom. Start the engine. The huge roar attracted the attention of many people around. When they saw Liu Jian and Xie Yao, they all looked over. Of course, the envious, jealous and hateful gazes also brought Liu Jian a lot of rich points. After casually greeting Lao Fei, Liu Jian quickly took Xie Yao away from the entertainment news group. "Oh, it's great to be young." Watching the silver Reventon going away, Lao Fei couldn't help but sigh, touching his body covered with. He murmured again, "For a young and wealthy man like Mr. Liu, with a great body, I'm afraid no girl can resist such charm. If I were a young girl, I'd probably throw myself into his arms." Xie Yao in the car looked at the interior of the Reventon curiously. She quickly asked the question in her mind, "Liu Jian, didn't you say you were from a mountain village before? How come you are the chairman of Yunqian Group now?" Liu Jian knew that Xie Yao would ask this question, so he briefly explained what had happened, without mentioning the existence of the system. There is such a good thing. Xie Yao's mouth was open wide enough to fit an egg, and her eyes were dull. Liu Jian smiled and said, I didn't expect such a good thing to happen. It took Xie Yao several dozen seconds to come to her senses. She exclaimed, oh my god, you actually inherited Yun. 36% of Chen Group's shares are worth 60 to 70 billion. Hey hey. The changes in these days made Liu Jian feel like he was in a dream, and he was still quite excited at the moment. Xie Yao looked at Liu Jian's overjoyed expression and couldn't help but smile. I haven't seen you for 2 years. I didn't expect that you would become a second-generation rich man when you came back, and your net worth is so high. You are really a diamond bachelor now. Liu Jian's mind moved slightly, and he smiled and said, isn't it true? I'm very popular now. Xie Yao, do you want to consider it? Anyway, my Yunchen group is in need of a boss lady. Pooh. Xie Yao chopped softly, but a blush somehow flew across her fair face. She said shyly, I don't care whether you are the chairman or not. Besides, I am not interested in being the boss's wife. Liu Jian was very disappointed. You know, when he was in school before, he always had a huge inferiority complex when facing Xie Yao. Now that his worth has skyrocketed, he thought Xie Yao would definitely agree to him, but he didn't expect that the other party actually refused without hesitation. Xie Yao looked at Liu Jian's dejected look and couldn't help but smile. Although I don't want to be your boss's wife, I am very grateful for your help the other day and for saving me today. I said before that I would treat you to a meal. If you have nothing to do later, come to my house and sit down. I'll cook you some home-cooked dishes. Really? Liu Jian's eyes lit up and he looked quite happy. After all, it is rare to have the opportunity to get Xie Yao to cook for you personally. Since they had agreed to have dinner in the evening, the two did not go home directly, but went to the supermarket first. Although it was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the supermarket was still crowded. The two men pushed a cart and headed towards the vegetable section. Although Xie Yao is young and comes from a wealthy family, she is very skilled in picking and choosing vegetables. It is obvious that she has a lot of experience in buying vegetables. Xie Yao put a few tomatoes into the cart and said with a smile, didn't expect that. Actually, I used to cook for myself when I was abroad, so I know a little bit about it. Liu Jian smiled and said, it seems that your cooking skills must be good. I must eat a few more bowls of rice tonight. That would be the best. Xie Yao responded with a smile, her brows also showing a lot of pleasure. The two of them talked and laughed, and the atmosphere was indeed very good. Liu Jian was in charge of pushing the cart, while Xie Yao walked in front to pick and choose. It took only about 10 minutes for the two of them to select the vegetables, and at the same time they bought some ribs in the meat area. After everything was done, the two drove back home. When Liu Jian arrived at Xie Yao's home, his eyes lit up. Although this house had been renovated a long time ago and the decoration style was quite good, it was deserted as no one lived there. But as soon as Liu Jian entered, he felt a warm atmosphere coming towards him. Whether it was the picture frame decorations on the wall or the green plants in the hanging baskets around, they all seemed full of vitality. Liu Jian praised, Xie Yao, you are really skillful. This place is really different after you decorated it. I just made some simple arrangements. Xie Yao was indeed happy to receive praise for her achievements. She smiled sweetly and said, Liu Jian, you sit here for a while. I'll go in and prepare the dishes. Let me help you. Although Liu Jian was thinking about whether to help Xie Yao, the latter quickly blasted him out. Come. Xie Yao put on her apron and said with a smile, how can the chairman of a group with a market value of hundreds of billions cook? Just sit there. Liu Jian had no choice but to withdraw. Although the living room is not very big, the surrounding decoration is still very warm. It can be seen that Xie Yao is still very concerned about her home, and her thoughts can be seen in many details. Liu Jian turned on the TV and browsed the news casually. Of course, the waiting time was not very long, only about half an hour. Liu Jian smelled a fragrance coming out from inside, which made him feel a little hungry. Just a moment later, Xie Yao brought the dishes out from the kitchen. She called out, Liu Jian. I have already prepared the food, just wash your hands and come over to eat. Okay. Liu Jian had been waiting impatiently and quickly went to the bathroom. After walking out, Xie Yao had already put all the dishes on the table. Wow! It smells so good. Liu Jian could smell the aroma before he even got close to him. When he arrived at the table, he saw that there were 4 dishes and 1 soup, including braised spare ribs, sweet and sour carp, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, stir-fried pork with broccoli, and a beef soup. These dishes looked very appetizing, both in appearance and color, and there was red wine prepared next to them. Xie Yao untied the apron and said with a smile, "I don't know if it suits your taste. I hope you like it." Liu Jian was not polite, he quickly sat down and praised, "I didn't expect it, I really didn't expect it. In the past, when we were in school, everyone thought our goddess was a high-class girl, but I didn't expect that today she is so down-to-earth and has such good skills. Whoever can marry you in the future will make a fortune. You just like to make fun of me." Xie Yao smiled and scolded him, but there was still a lot of joy in her eyes. Chapter 45. I'm rich, really rich. This meal was still delicious. Although Lin Weiya, Su Jinsi and others are also beautiful girls, both in temperament and appearance. None of them are inferior to Xie Yao, but Liu Jian has a different feeling for Xie Yao. It is naturally very comfortable to be able to have a meal with the goddess of his dreams, especially when she cooks specially for him. The meal lasted nearly an hour and a half before it was finally over. After eating and drinking, Liu Jian's mind began to become active. Unfortunately, he could see that Xie Yao had no such thoughts at all, and was just simply thanking him, which made Liu Jian very disappointed. But thinking about it carefully, it made him more encouraged. After all, there are not many girls like Xie Yao these days. If she really started to get close to him after seeing his current wealth and status, he would definitely not be interested in her, so he valued Xie Yao even more. Of course, the two also talked about work while eating. No matter what, Xie Yao returned to China this time to start her own acting career, and regardless of whether he gave up control of the entertainment journalism group, Liu Jian wanted to help Xie Yao, so he had been lobbying Xie Yao to switch to Panhua Entertainment. As long as Liu Jian is around, Xie Yao will definitely have a chance to come to the fore. Xie Yao was still a little hesitant. Although Panhua Entertainment was also an extremely powerful performing arts company, it would be a very good choice if she could sign a contract with Panhua Entertainment before returning to China. But now that Liu Jian said this, Xie Yao couldn't make up her mind. After all, she really didn't want to be a canary. "Xie Yao, are you really unwilling?" Liu Jian said this with regret, with a lot of pity in his words. Xie Yao shook her head and said firmly, "Liu Jian, I know you mean well and you really want to help me, but this is my life path and I don't want to hide under someone else's wings. If I really join Panhua Entertainment, I will really be working for you. How can I remain calm when facing my own boss?" All right. Although Xie Yao is usually gentle and seems easy to talk to, Liu Jian knows that once she makes up her mind, it will not be easy to change. For this reason, he can only respect her choice. After dinner, Liu Jian didn't drive himself because he was drunk. He didn't leave Xie Yao's house until the bodyguard came. The next day, Liu Jian arrived at Yunqian Group around 10 o'clock. Just as he entered his office, Su Jinsi knocked on the door and came in. "What's wrong, Jinsi?" Liu Jian noticed Su Jinsi's hurried look and couldn't help but frown. Usually she was very steady, and he had never seen such a situation since he met her. Su Jinsi said with surprise, "Boss Liu, the effect of the beauty pills is showing." "Oh, really?" When Liu Jian heard this, a look of joy flashed across his brows. He had high hopes for this thing. Su Jinsi quickly explained, "The girl from the logistics department who took the beauty pills yesterday came to work this morning. Everyone noticed that her skin had improved a lot and her temperament had improved significantly. Call her up here quickly. I want to see it myself." Liu Jian seemed impatient. Soon, the girl appeared in Liu Jian's office, and Liu Jian trembled all over the moment he saw her. The girl was still the same girl, with no change in her appearance, but her originally dark skin seemed to have become a lot whiter and faintly shiny. The most surprising thing was that her temperament was obviously improved. This effect is really amazing, isn't it? Even though he had known for a long time that the effect of the beauty pills was definitely not simple, Liu Jian was still extremely shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. He hurriedly said, "Tell me quickly, what happened after you went back yesterday? There was such an obvious change." The girl was also very surprised and said, "Mr. Liu, actually I'm not sure either. There really wasn't much change when I first came here, but when I went back yesterday and took a shower I found that my skin seemed to have become much smoother. I didn't pay much attention to it at the time, and thought it might be the effect of the beauty pills. Later I fell asleep early, but who would have thought that it would be like this when I woke up the next day? There was indescribable excitement in her tone. Liu Jian nodded and said, "It seems that this must be the effect of the beauty pills. I didn't expect that there would be such an obvious change in just one night. It seems that if I take a full course, there will definitely be a qualitative change." Su Jin's eyes also lit up, and she said in surprise, "Yes, Mr. Liu. Women are born to love beauty. As long as the beauty pills can really have such magical effects, it will definitely be an epoch-making product, and it will definitely make countless women crazy. By then, it will be difficult for our Yunqian group not to develop." Liu Jian nodded again, his expression naturally full of excitement. The effect of this beauty pill is really amazing. Although it only improves the skin and temperament, it is fatal to women. As long as it is launched in the market, it will definitely be a killer weapon. Soon. The girl left the office. Liu Jian instructed, "We need to continue to track the effects of the beauty pills, and we must be able to grasp their complete efficacy and subsequent feedback. Of course, there is one more thing. Have you asked the pharmaceutical expert you found earlier? Can the prescription be refined at the current pharmaceutical level?" Su Jinsi hurriedly said, "Boss Liu, I have already split the prescription into several parts according to your instructions, and consulted different pharmaceutical experts. According to the information they gave me, there is absolutely no problem in refining it. It's just that the cost is relatively high. After all, many medicinal materials are relatively scarce. It doesn't matter. Scarcity has its advantages. Beauty pills will also be more valuable because they are rare." Liu Jian waved his hand, not really caring about it. As long as the beauty pills can be refined on a large scale, he will have enough profit. Su Jinsi nodded and continued, "But as far as I know, if you want to put this kind of thing on the market, it seems that you still need to do a lot of experiments, and it also needs to go through multiple audits. If you want to launch it quickly, many things have to be done simultaneously. You can handle these matters yourself." Liu Jian still has great confidence in Su Jinsi's abilities and is very reassured about this. Su Jinsi thought for a moment and then said, "By the way, Mr. Liu, I would like to ask you a question. If we can successfully obtain the sales license for the beauty pills, what are your specific plans?" Liu Jian was stunned for a moment, and suddenly his brows furrowed. Chapter 46 Administrative Secretary. He didn't quite understand what Su Jinsi was referring to. Su Jinsi said slowly, "Boss Liu, the recipe for this beauty pill is absolutely a treasure. Possessing it can lead to the door to wealth. However, if you want to quickly promote approval, production, sales, etc., it is absolutely impossible to rely on one person alone. Before that, I think you should first set up a pharmaceutical company that belongs entirely to you, and then discuss cooperation with Yunqian, and use Yunqian Group's extremely developed sales network to expand channels, so that you can maximize your profits." Liu Jian was not stupid and quickly understood what Su Jinsi meant. To be honest, he didn't think much about it before. He just wanted to take out the prescription and give it to Yunqian to produce and sell. However, after thinking about it carefully, it would indeed bring him huge profits, as Su Jinsi said. After all, he can squeeze out more benefits this way. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Jinsi, you are right. We have to set up a pharmaceutical company of our own, and then we can merge it into Yunqian Group. Not to mention that Yunqian's performance will surely reach a higher level because of the existence of the beauty pills. The more critical thing is that my shares here may be more than just 50%. He was very excited just thinking about it. Su Jinsi said, "Mr. Liu, this is indeed the case. However, it is too slow to establish your own pharmaceutical company. The fastest way is to acquire it. Is there anyone to acquire in Jiangnan City recently?" Liu Jian asked slowly. Su Jinsi nodded and said, "Among the pharmaceutical companies in Jiangnan City, there is indeed one that is quite suitable. It is called Ankang Pharmaceutical. Although it is not very large, its equipment is quite advanced. It is absolutely no problem to use it to refine beauty pills. Moreover, there is a considerable amount of vacant land in its production area that can be used for expansion, which is very suitable for future development. According to my previous understanding, this pharmaceutical factory has suffered serious losses in recent years and is on the verge of bankruptcy. However, even so, its price. How many? The minimum purchase price is conservatively estimated to be 900 million yuan. If you want to acquire it completely, you may have to prepare 1 billion yuan. 1 billion. No problem. Boss Liu, it's no problem for Yunqian Group to take out 1 billion, but I want you to personally advance 1 billion first. Of course I know. I have 1 billion on my card right now. Liu Jian said this with a smile, but if you looked closely his eyes were full of helplessness. This money was the sign-in reward I just received yesterday, but who would have thought that I didn't even have the chance to show off and now it's all spent. It's such a pity. Call. After these words were spoken, Su Jinsi's delicate body trembled slightly. Maybe others don't know Liu Jian's background, but doesn't Su Jinsi know it? When did Liu Jian have 10 billion in cash? Su Jinsi was greatly surprised when she thought of this. She took a deep breath and said doubtfully, Boss Liu, 1 billion is not a small amount. Liu Jian had no choice but to open his mobile banking app and show the deposit amount on it. After seeing the long string of numbers, Su Jinsi's face became dull. It's not that she hasn't seen money before. Just yesterday, she used nearly 12 billion yuan from the company's account to acquire shares in the entertainment journalism group. But the money in front of her was Liu Jian's personal money, which naturally made her feel incredible. However, although she was surprised, Su Jinsi certainly would not continue to pry into her boss's background. She slowly said, Boss Liu, since you really have 1 billion in cash, that's great. As long as you take over Ankang Pharmaceutical, you can then roll out the entire line. Liu Jian nodded. Su Jinsi suddenly frowned again and said, Boss Liu, yesterday you asked me to use the group's funds. According to the procedures, I have already reported it to the board of directors this morning. Many directors, led by Vice Chairman Liao Xinghua, are very dissatisfied with this. I'm afraid you have to think of the wording of your explanation. Explain. Liu Jian showed a faint sneer and said, What's there to explain to these guys? Just let them make trouble. I want to see who can stir up any trouble. Su Jinsi still said with some worry, Boss Liu, I know that with your shares you don't need to pay much attention to Vice Chairman Liao and his men, but after all, Yunqian Group is not entirely under your control, so you'd better be cautious. Liu Jian waved his hand and said, Let's not talk about the fact that my shares in Yunqian will increase significantly after the beauty pill incident is unveiled. I don't need to pay any attention to these people. Besides, even if we look at the facts, the previous acquisition of Yuji may not be without profit. There was at least a lot of room for maneuver in yesterday's matter, and it was obvious that there was no need to explain too much to the board of directors. Su Jinsi stopped talking after hearing what Liu Jian said. She just paused and said, By the way, Mr. Liu, there is one more thing. My workload is really heavy at this stage. If you don't mind, I would like to hire an administrative secretary for you to help you with your daily simple work. The location will be outside your office. Administrative secretary. Liu Jian was a little surprised, but he was relieved soon. Indeed. Although Su Jinsi is a secretary, it is more accurate to call her the president's assistant. She usually needs to handle a lot of things for him. Simple tasks such as sending and receiving emails, registering visitors, etc. are definitely not something she can continue to do. Thinking of this, he nodded and said, Okay, then you can handle this matter. Su Jinsi said, I will finish it as soon as possible. Then she left the office. Now that everything had been ordered, Liu Jian suddenly seemed a little bored in the office. He turned on his computer and watched TV casually. Until noon. This was the first time that Liu Jian went to dine at his own group's restaurant accompanied by Su Jinsi. I have to say, the restaurant environment in front of me is really quite elegant, much more comfortable than the environment of a general 5-star restaurant. Although there are many people dining here, the whole atmosphere is still quite quiet. Su Jinsi smiled and said, Boss Liu, the treatment of our Yunqian group has always been excellent in the industry, and the chefs we hire are all famous cooking masters at home and abroad, so generally speaking, employees will not go out for lunch. It looks pretty good. Liu Jian nodded and looked around. He was surprised to find that there were so many beautiful women in this restaurant. There were young girls in work uniforms everywhere. Even though these girls could not compare with Su Jinsi in appearance and temperament, they were still young and beautiful, and they were indeed a nice sight. Although most people in the group did not know Liu Jian at this time, they knew Su Jinsi. The woman in front of them is the dream goddess of countless men in the Yunqian group, and the object of envy, jealousy and hatred of all women. Seeing that Su Jinsi was always by Liu Jian's side, they all understood Liu Jian's identity. This must be the new CEO Liu, right? So handsome. And so young. Oh my god, rich people really look good. It would be great if Mr. Liu could fall in love with me. Countless young girls cast coquettish glances at Liu Jian, their eyes full of surprise. Chapter 47 The Goddess's Inquiry. Ding, praise from Li Yulan from the Public Relations Department detected, super rich points +3. Ding, admiration from He Meijian from the Sales Department detected, super rich points +4. Ding, surprise detected from Zhao Huiru of Guangxin branch, godly rich points +2. Liu Jian kept receiving notifications from the system in his mind, which made him feel quite excited. Who would have thought that even just having a meal at his restaurant would earn him so many rich points? It seems that his charm is really great, otherwise there wouldn't be so many girls casting ambiguous glances at him from time to time. Of course, someone will never admit that everything is related to his money and worth. What Liu Jian didn't expect was that during his free time during the meal, he actually saw Fan Xiong also eating at the same table with 3 beauties. Seeing those slim beauties chatting and laughing around Fan Xiong, making him so amused that he was totally confused, Liu Jian felt helpless and muttered, "This guy was asked to take charge of the marketing department, and he hasn't even started to take over the position yet, but is already flirting with his colleagues from the group. It seems like he needs to be punished in the future." Su Jinsi smiled and said, "Boss Liu, it seems you are envious." "I envy him." Liu Jian was quite dissatisfied with this. He thought about it and suddenly laughed. Those girls around Fan Xiong are pretty, but how can they compare to our Jinsi? He, I think there will be countless men who want to eat me alive in just half an hour. Mr. Liu just likes to make fun of me. Su Jinsi's pretty face also blushed slightly. As a girl, there is no girl who doesn't like to hear nice things. Liu Jian laughed and said, "I'm speaking from the heart. Don't you know that you are the goddess of our Yunqian group?" Speaking of goddesses. Su Jinsi stroked her hair and said with a half-smile, "It seems that Mr. Liu just spent over 10 billion yuan on a girl at the entertainment group yesterday. I think that is the real goddess." Liu Jian was surprised and asked, "You know everything?" Su Jinsi said calmly, "Boss Liu suddenly wants to acquire the entertainment journal group. As your assistant, of course I have to understand what happened. It must be old Fei's big mouth." Liu Jian muttered angrily, and his words were still quite angry. Su Jinsi said leisurely, "Boss Liu, you don't have to blame Boss Fei. I just want to understand the situation. Of course, if you don't like it, I won't ask about it again in the future." Liu Jian looked at Su Jinsi's indifferent expression, as if she was jealous. He laughed and said, "No way, I'm just afraid that you guys would think too much. If the people at headquarters knew, they would think I was spending money to pick up girls." He. Su Jinsi looked at Liu Jian with a smile. The look seemed to say, "Isn't it? All right." Liu Jian really couldn't resist. If it was any other girl, Liu Jian wouldn't care at all, but when it came to Xie Yao, he still valued her very much. Even if people looked at him like that now, he just let it be. If you have so much money to pick up girls, that's also your ability. Thinking of this, Liu Jian suddenly became open-minded and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that you would see through me in the end." Su Jinsi's expression changed slightly, and she said leisurely again, "Boss Liu, is this goddess your girlfriend?" Liu Jian said slowly, "No, we are just college classmates." "Not really." Su Jinsi was stunned for a moment, her eyes full of surprise, and then she smiled and said, "I'm suddenly very curious about that girl. I don't know what kind of girl can attract a person like Mr. Liu." Liu Jian chuckled and said, "Of course she is a beauty." Su Jinsi's heart was slightly moved. After lunch, Liu Jian returned to his office, but as soon as he got there, someone suddenly knocked on the door. "Come in," Liu Jian shouted. Soon a tall girl came in from outside. She was about 1.68 meters tall, about 23 or 24 years old, with delicate appearance and good temperament. Although she was wearing an office professional suit, she still couldn't hide her slender and graceful figure. She looked very charming indeed. The girl came to Liu Jian's desk and said coquettishly, "Hello, Mr. Liu, I am Zhang Yun, the new administrative secretary." Administrative secretary. Liu Jian didn't expect that Su Jinsi would complete what he had mentioned in the morning in the afternoon. Since it was Su Jinsi who selected it, there shouldn't be any problem. He nodded and said, "Okay, you can work at the administrative desk outside from now on. You can ask Assistant Su about the specific work." Assistant Su has already explained it to me in detail. Zhang Yun nodded and smiled. Mr. Liu, what would you like to drink? I've seen the tea room before, and there are a lot of new teas, coffee and other things there. Liu Jian was a little tired, nodded, and said, coffee. Zhang Yun nodded and said with a smile, okay, Mr. Liu. Soon she walked out. Liu Jian was still very satisfied with Zhang Yun. At least she gave him a very professional feeling. It only takes 2 minutes. Zhang Yun made some coffee and brought it in, saying respectfully but with a smile, Mr. Liu, your coffee. Thanks. Liu Jian still enjoyed this kind of corrupt life. He took a sip and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. But he suddenly remembered something, raised his eyebrows and said, by the way, are you familiar with clothes, gifts, etc.? Zhang Yun said calmly, if it's just a simple one, I think it's fine. I've received professional training in this area before. Liu Jian nodded and said, that's good. Come with me this afternoon. Zhang Yun was a little surprised, but she quickly said, okay, Mr. Liu. 2:30 in the afternoon. Liu Jian and Zhang Yun drove away from Yunqian Group under the guidance of bodyguards. About half an hour later, they arrived at the largest and most prosperous commercial center in Jiangnan City. Soon they drove to the underground garage of a commercial center. Because the bodyguards were too big a target, Liu Jian asked them all to stay here and wait. He and Zhang Yun got into the elevator alone. As soon as Liu Jian entered the building, he looked around and patrolled all the counters. Zhang Yun stood silently beside Liu Jian and said respectfully, Boss Liu, do we need to buy anything here today? Liu Jian nodded and said, I was busy before so I didn't buy any clothes for myself. Let's go buy some clothes first. Zhang Yun said respectfully, okay, Mr. Liu. Chapter 48, The Provocation of the Armani Store. Soon, the two of them entered an Armani flagship store. The store was quite quiet at that moment, with only 3 or 2 people choosing clothes. As a high-end luxury brand, Armani's clothing has always been favored by successful people, and the price of each piece of clothing is not cheap. Even a very inconspicuous piece of clothing may cost several months' salary for an ordinary white-collar worker. Welcome. 2 young and beautiful girls came over to Liu Jian and his companion the moment they saw them, with smiles on their faces. I have to say, the service attitude in flagship stores like this is very good. Even if you don't buy anything, you feel like a distinguished guest just by walking in. Liu Jian nodded slightly but didn't say much. All his previous clothes were thrown into the rental house. Although Su Jinsi later customized a batch of clothes for him, generally speaking, there are still not enough clothes of various styles recently, so he came here specifically to pick some out this time. At this time, one of the older girls smiled and asked, what style of clothes do you like, sir? We have launched a lot of new styles recently. I'll just take a look first. Liu Jian casually browsed around the store to see if there were any that suited his style. He came to a shelf and casually brushed a windbreaker with his right fingertips. He didn't know what material the windbreaker was made of. It looked ordinary, but the price tag was shockingly expensive. 18,800. Oh my god. This price is really not affordable. If it had been a few days ago, Liu Jian would have definitely cursed. This windbreaker, which was made of an unknown material and just had an Armani logo on it, actually cost nearly 20,000 yuan. Isn't it too horrible? Of course, this little bit of money is just a drop in the bucket for Liu Jian right now, and he doesn't care at all. His fingertips once again moved towards a place not far away, but it almost passed by. It seems that he doesn't like the clothes here. Hey, isn't this Zhang Yun? At this moment, a teasing voice suddenly came from not far away. Liu Jian and Zhang Yun immediately looked over there, and saw a man and a woman walking towards them. The man was about 30 years old, with an ordinary appearance and a slightly fat body. Although he was dressed elegantly, he always gave people the feeling of a nouveau riche. He was holding the arm of a young and charming girl, who was clinging tightly to him, and the two were quite intimate. You know him? Liu Jian frowned. He could faintly hear some contempt in the man's words. Zhang Yun's face darkened slightly, and she nodded, saying, Boss Liu, this is the vice president of my previous company and my immediate superior. Oh. Liu Jian nodded lightly, no longer looking at the latter, but looking at the clothes again. Just a moment later, the man brought the young and charming girl next to them. He glanced at Zhang Yun, then at Liu Jian, who was hurriedly sweeping his clothes, and said jokingly, Zhang Yun, I didn't expect you to actually resign. Vice President Chu, if the ideas don't match, it's better to separate. Zhang Yun also spoke in a calm tone, but if you listened carefully you could faintly hear the dissatisfaction in her voice. Snort. When Chu Xingqiu heard this, a hint of displeasure flashed in his eyes. Thinking back to when I was in Xinghui Group, I recruited Zhang Yun as my personal secretary because she was pretty. I also tried to take advantage of her several times, but who would have thought that she would not appreciate it at all? After the last ultimatum, she even resigned directly, which made Chu Xingqiu, who had already touched countless female subordinates, feel very unhappy. He just didn't expect to meet her here again today. Sir, do you have any favorites? The salesgirl next to them doesn't care whether the two parties know each other or not. She only cares about who will buy the clothes here. Liu Jian said calmly, Are all the clothes here in my size? The salesgirl smiled and said, You have a great figure, a standard fit. We definitely have your size here. Okay, let me take a look. Liu Jian nodded, but did not show any intention to buy. He just continued to browse casually. The two shopping guides were immediately disappointed. The two have been working as shopping guides for many years. How rich are their experiences? According to general experience, customers like this are definitely pretending to be dissatisfied because the product is too expensive, and finally leave because they say they don't like it. He. Chu Xingqiu, as the vice president of the group, certainly had a good eye and had the same idea as the two shopping guides. He said jokingly, Zhang Yun, is this the pretty boy you hooked up with? Har, if you can't afford the clothes here, you can go to other stores. Why are you pretending here? Let me tell you, Armani clothes have always been affordable only for high-end successful people. Liu Jian couldn't help but frowned. Zhang Yun's face changed slightly and she hurriedly prepared to speak. But before she could say anything, Liu Jian stretched out his hand to signal her not to speak. Zhang Yun had no choice but to stop talking. Liu Jian said calmly, From your tone, it seems like buying two pieces of clothing is a big deal. Chu Xingqiu looked at Liu Jian teasingly. Based on his professional judgment, he didn't look like a rich man. After all, he didn't look like he was wearing anything special. He looked good and had a good temperament, so he subjectively determined that he was a gigolo. He sneered, Buying two Armani clothes is nothing special for me, but it may not be for some people. How interesting. Liu Jian looked at the other party's arrogant appearance and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Zhang Yun also found it very funny. This is the chairman and president of Yunqian Group. No matter how rich you, Chu Xingqiu, are, you are just a senior executive of a listed group, with a net worth of tens of millions at most. Now you dare to challenge someone with a net worth of hundreds of billions, aren't you asking for a fight? Chu Xingqiu felt very unhappy when he saw the teasing flash in Liu Jian's eyes. He gritted his teeth and sneered, Zhang Yun, your taste is really too bad. I think you have to pay for the two clothes yourself now, right? Vice President Chu, I advise you to be more careful with your words. There was a hint of displeasure in Zhang Yun's eyes. This guy is a married man, and he flirts with his subordinates in the office all day long, relying on his position as a company executive to harm young girls everywhere. I had rejected him a long time ago, but he still pestered me, and it was not until I resigned not long ago that it ended. But who would have thought that today was her first day working at Yunqian Group, and it was such a well-paid job? She didn't want to leave a bad impression in front of her new boss. Chapter 49 Take one of all the clothes here. Chu Xingqiu held the waist of the girl next to him and said with a proud smile, Humph, I always talk like this. What can you do to me if I say this? Zhang Yun was speechless for a while. Chu Xingqiu casually picked up 2 or 3 shirts beside him, looked at the nameplates, and then smiled and said, They are not expensive, only 14 or 5,000 each. Come, help me pack these clothes. Yes, sir. The two salesgirls' eyes suddenly flashed with joy when they saw this. After all, performance is their income. The fat middle-aged man in front of them bought 3 pieces at once, which cost about 50,000 Chinese yuan. This was a considerable gain for them. They quickly took it and wrapped it up. Chu Xingqiu smiled and said, What? Boy, you don't want to pick 2 pieces too? Har, Armani clothes are pretty good. When he said this, his eyes were full of sarcasm. The clothes are really nice. Liu Jian said calmly, his eyes full of disdain, it's just that it looks a bit cheap on some people. What did you say? Chu Xingqiu's expression changed slightly and he was very dissatisfied with this. After all, he knew that his figure was quite bad. Most of the time, even if the clothes looked good, he couldn't wear them to look like a clothes hanger. Liu Jian shrugged and said with a smile, I said you look too ugly in these. How dare you scold me? Chu Xingqiu was so angry that he was shaking all over. You know, as the vice president of a listed company, there were countless people trying to curry favor with him. When had he ever been contradicted like this? But suddenly he sneered and said, Humph. Boy, you are quite good at talking. But picking up girls requires more than just talking. If you don't have money, I advise you not to pretend here. Zhang Yun looked at Chu Xingqiu as if he were an idiot, her eyes full of sadness for her. Is it possible that the chairman and president of Yunqian Group cannot afford to buy a few pieces of clothing? Liu Jian was not angry. He smiled and said, Since you are so rich, why did you only buy 3? I think you are just like that. Boy, don't provoke me with such words. Chu Xingqiu felt very unhappy when he thought that Zhang Yun had dared to reject him and was now flirting with a pretty boy. Anyway, there was no need to curry favor with him, so he said arrogantly, I don't think you can even afford these 3 items. After all, it costs at least 50,000 yuan. Sir, how about we pick a few to try? The salesgirl's eyes flickered slightly and she asked very cleverly. Don't try. Liu Jian waved his hand and rejected the other party's proposal without hesitation. Chu Xingqiu immediately revealed a sneer on his face and said with a smile, Har har, is Zhang Yun the reason why you have been unwilling to agree? I think you should just come back to the company and be my secretary in the future. But at this moment, everyone saw Liu Jian pointing at the shirts that Chu Xingqiu mentioned earlier and said, this one, and that one. They will definitely make me look bad when I wear them. I don't want any of them. As for the rest of them, please give me one in my size. What? The 2 salesgirls were stunned for a moment, thinking they had completely misheard. Does this person want to buy them all? Is he crazy? Not only the 2 of them, but even Zhang Yun was shocked. Although she knew that Liu Jian was definitely a wealthy man, she didn't expect that he would want to buy all the clothes in this store. You have to know that this is Armani's flagship store, and there are at least hundreds of styles suitable for him. If he buys all of them, it will cost at least nearly 2 million. 2 million is enough to buy clothes. Zhang Yun felt that her consumption concept was instantly crushed to the ground. However, this shock only lasted for a few seconds. Chu Xingqiu soon came to his senses and burst into laughter, saying, Har har har, how funny. You actually want to buy all the clothes. Can you wear them all? Besides, do you know how much it will cost? If you can't finish wearing them, you can give them away. Liu Jian shrugged and said nonchalantly, As for the money har har, these few million are also money to me. Oh my god. Isn't he this too arrogant? This is at least over 2 million Chinese yuan, and it's just like buying vegetables. This guy is either really rich or absolutely crazy. Everyone present was stunned when they heard this, even Chu Xingqiu stood there in a daze. As the vice president of a listed company, he has met many wealthy people, but there are not many people like Liu Jian who don't take money as money. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and sneered, Humph, kid, your words are beautiful, but I'm afraid you are just talking. Liu Jian said proudly, help me settle the bill first. Okay. The 2 shopping guides quickly came to their senses from their astonishment and nodded in ecstasy. Just less than 5 minutes. The girl who had spoken earlier came over excitedly, followed by a middle-aged woman who looked like the store manager. She said respectfully, Sir, we have already calculated for you. Apart from the 3 shirts this gentleman has chosen, if you buy one of each of the others, the total cost will be 2,534,600 yuan. Of course, since you have purchased a lot of clothes this time, we can apply for a gold card for you to enjoy a 12% discount. Then help me finish it. Liu Jian took out a bank card and handed it directly to the latter. The store manager immediately said happily, Okay, sir. When Chu Xingqiu saw Liu Jian handing over the bank card, he was stunned. Is this guy serious? Chu Xingqiu originally thought that Liu Jian was just pretending, so he didn't take it too seriously. But now it seems that it is different from his expectations. Could this be some rich second generation? Thinking of this, his face turned grim. Sir, please enter the password. Okay. Sir, your payment has been made, a total of 2,230,000, and we have already eliminated the remaining small changes," the store manager said excitedly, knowing that this was the largest income in recent months. Liu Jian turned to Chu Xingqiu and said jokingly, "Pretending to be rich in front of me? How funny. You." Chu Xingqiu's expression had already become extremely ugly, and even though he was being criticized, he was speechless. Although his annual income is very good, at least 3 or 4 million, no matter how rich he is, he will not be as extravagant as Liu Jian. He spent more than 2 million on clothes alone, which is definitely beyond his ability to afford. On the contrary, the young and charming girl next to Chu Xingqiu looked at Liu Jian with bright eyes. Ding, admiration from Liu Jiao detected, godly rich points +4. Ding, shock is detected from the Clark He Chunlin, godly rich points +4. Chapter 50. Spending money is fun. Soon, Chu Xingqiu left the place dejectedly with the charming girl beside him. A hint of smile flashed across Zhang Yun's eyes, but she quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, Mr. Liu, I caused you trouble just now." Liu Jian waved his hand and said, "This guy is overestimating his own abilities and coming to trouble me. Do you think that you, Mr. Liu, are afraid of this kind of person?" When he said this, his tone was full of domineering. To be honest, Zhang Yun was also shocked by Liu Jian's way of spending money. She immediately shook her head and said firmly, "How can Chu Xingqiu just now be compared with Mr. Liu?" Har har har, well said. Liu Jian was very relieved to hear this, but he soon asked in confusion, "By the way, you too?" Zhang Yun immediately explained, "I'm sorry, the man just now was the vice president of my previous company, and my immediate superior, but he was." She didn't say anything bad about Chu Xingqiu, but just briefly explained what had happened. "Oh, so that's how it is." After hearing this, Liu Jian understood what was going on. It was exactly what he had guessed before. Although this fat man is a married man, he still uses his position to take advantage of the situation. He didn't expect to meet someone like Zhang Yun who would not obey at all, and they ended up parting ways. He nodded and said with a smile, "Don't worry, your boss doesn't do this kind of stuff." "I know." Zhang Yun responded with a smile, but she felt inexplicably lost in her heart. Yes. Even if you use unspoken rules, it depends on the person. One is a fat company executive with a wife, and the other is a young, wealthy, and strong group chairman. Which one is more attractive is not new and obvious. Zhang Yun is not stupid. Although she didn't want to be taken advantage of, she wouldn't be stupid enough to refuse a rich bachelor like Liu Jian, so she naturally felt very regretful when she heard this. "Have you memorized the size of my clothes? You will have to buy my clothes most of the time in the future." Liu Jian naturally had no idea what Zhang Yun was thinking, so he just asked casually. Zhang Yun's face immediately turned red, and she quickly said, "I'll remember it." Liu Jian looked at the other party suspiciously, but didn't think much about it. Seeing the salesgirl packing his clothes with great excitement and enthusiasm, he immediately said, "Someone will come to pick them up later. Just leave them here for now." "Okay," the store manager said excitedly. Soon, Liu Jian took Zhang Yun out of the Armani flagship store. Of course, before leaving, Zhang Yun quickly notified the bodyguards waiting in the underground garage and asked them to come and pick up the clothes later. In the following time, the two of them visited many shops. This was Liu Jian's first time shopping since he gained the system, so he bought a lot of things. Every time he entered a store, he would receive warm hospitality from various shopping guides, especially when he swiped his card to pay. Zhang Yun always followed Liu Jian closely. At first, she mainly did her job well and carefully recorded the new boss's personal preferences, living habits, etc. However, the longer she went shopping with him, the more shocked she felt. This Liu Jian is really good at spending money. Yes. Ever since entering this commercial building, Liu Jian would buy anything he liked on the spot whenever he entered a store, without ever thinking about money. And his spending each time was never less than 1 million. Oh my god! In just 1 hour, 7 million had been spent. The speed at which money is spent is even faster than robbing a gold shop. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Zhang Yun wouldn't have believed what she saw. Liu Jian spent the money as if it were a blank sheet of paper. It was such a carefree feeling. Zhang Yun's current salary is only around 15,000 yuan, including various bonuses and benefits. It is about 250,000 yuan a year. But this 1 hour would require her to work hard for at least 30 years. What exactly is the concept of this? While Zhang Yun was working carefully, she suddenly felt that her outlook on life had been completely overturned. At this moment, Liu Jian didn't care about Zhang Yun's thoughts. He just strolled around casually, buying whatever he liked and whatever he saw was fun. After all, he was a poor child since he was young, and he had never enjoyed life like this, even if this way of spending money seemed like being a nouveau riche to others. So what if I'm a nouveau riche? How can you become a real rich man without going through the process of becoming a nouveau riche? It feels so good to spend money. Although he earned a lot of godly points, he still felt very comfortable with the spending like today. Although it might cost 900 million to acquire the pharmaceutical company, there was still more than 100 million left in his card, which was enough for him to squander. Suddenly, Liu Jian's eyes swept towards the watch area not far away. There are many counters selling world-famous watches over there, and many people are browsing and admiring them at this moment. How can a successful man not have a decent watch? Liu Jian couldn't help but feel a little moved, and quickly took Zhang Yun over. Liu is an outdoor anchor. Although he is only in his early 20s, he has been live streaming on a certain fish platform for more than 3 years. Although he has not reached the level of a top celebrity in the circle of outdoor anchors, he is still well known. Outdoor anchors are not like those young and beautiful girls who can attract countless male compatriots just by singing and dancing in their house. They are also not like those game anchors who can fight everywhere with just a computer and attract countless people's attention and flattery. Every time outdoor anchors want to gain more attention, they must plan their live broadcast content early and strive to innovate, so that they can be competitive enough. Today, Liu spent nearly 3 or 4 hours traveling hundreds of miles from his hometown to Jiangnan City. He entered the enemy without stopping. At this time, he was holding a live broadcast pole and smilingly introduced to the viewers in the live broadcast room, "Hello everyone, I am Liu. I think you should also know that I have always had a special liking for watches. Last time I told everyone that I wanted to do a live broadcast about watches, so today I came to Jiangnan City specially. You should also be able to see that this is the most luxurious business center in Jiangnan City, and now I am standing in the luxury watch area. The watches here are all world-class watches, such as Patek Philippe, IWC, Blancpain, etc., so now let me take you to appreciate the world of watches." After that, he slowly walked to a place not far away with the live broadcast pole. Chapter 51. These are too cheap. Liu Jian quickly walked into the Patek Philippe counter. As the world's top watch, Patek Philippe's reputation is still extremely loud. Just like he had once fantasized about owning his own luxury supercar, when Liu Jian first learned about this famous watch in a magazine, he naturally wanted to buy one, but at that time it was just a thought at best. But now it's different. As Liu Jian and Zhang Yun slowly walked in, an equally young and beautiful sales lady came over to greet them. She smiled sweetly and said, "Welcome to the Patek Philippe counter." Liu Jian nodded and said, "Take us for a tour." "Yes, sir." Although young men like this are not the main customer group of Patek Philippe, every guest who can enter here is a respected guest. The professionally trained beauty shopping guide led the two of them in with a smile. Not long. The beautiful shopping guide took the two of them to the counter nearby and said with a smile, "As we all know, our Patek Philippe watches are the world's top watches, and the number produced each year is relatively limited. In the whole of China, the only Patek Philippe counter besides the one in Yangjing is ours in Jiangnan City. I wonder what style of watch do you like? Young and fashionable, mature and classic, or simple and euphemistic?" Liu Jian thought for a moment and said, "I'm not particularly sure. I'm just looking around. If I see something I like, I'll buy a few to play with." "Yes, sir." The corners of the beautiful shopping guide's mouth twitched slightly when she heard this. Although her face was still full of smiles, a hint of silence flashed in her eyes. "Buy a few pieces for fun? This is a Patek Philippe watch. Even the cheapest one costs more than 100,000 Chinese yuan. Should I just buy a few pieces for fun?" Of course, even though she was complaining in her heart, the beautiful shopping guide was still very professional. She was speechless for a moment, and soon smiled and said, "Then let me recommend a few to you, sir. Take a look and see if you like them." "That's fine." To be honest, although Liu Jian knew that Patek Philippe watches were good, he didn't know exactly what was good about them, or what styles of watches were available, so he was not in a hurry to choose one at this time. Soon, the beautiful shopping guide brought out several hot-selling products from the counter and introduced them briefly. "Sir, this 5726 1A014 from the Sports Elegance series is a mechanical automatic watch with a sapphire crystal glass mirror. The entire watch design is quite sporty. The current price is around 330,000. There is also this 5212A001 from the Complex Function Timepiece series. This watch is also a mechanical automatic watch. The case is made of stainless steel. The style of the entire watch is more mature. It is an excellent accessory for many formal occasions. The current price is around 240,000. Etc. Seeing the beautiful shopping guide talking endlessly about the products, Liu Jian suddenly waved his hand. The beautiful shopping guide stopped with a smile and asked, "Sir, do you like it? None of these will work." Liu Jian shook his head, not satisfied with this. The beautiful shopping guide smiled but still looked a little surprised. "These are the most popular products in our Patek Philippe counter. Don't you have any favorite ones? It's too cheap, not worthy of my status." Liu Jian spoke calmly, but his expression seemed very natural. Too cheap. The beautiful shopping guide felt as if 10,000 wild horses were galloping through her mind. She glanced at the beautiful woman who followed her and found that her face was very calm, as if this was the most natural thing. Is this person really rich? No matter what, the beautiful shopping guide still had a good mentality. She smiled again and said, "Well, sir, please follow me over here. There are several more luxurious watches in our Patek Philippe counter." Liu finally walked into the Patek Philippe watch area. Although there was also a beautiful shopping guide coming up to greet him, he quickly waved his hand and politely declined the offer. After all, he is currently live streaming. As a professional outdoor anchor, Liu knows how to control the atmosphere of the entire live broadcast room. At this time, he smiled and said, "As you can see, this is the only two Patek Philippe counters in the whole of China, and the other one is in the imperial capital. This place in Jiangnan City is decorated very luxuriously. Of course, under normal circumstances, those who can afford watches here are either rich or noble, that is, what everyone calls the local tyrants. You can probably see that there aren't many people in this counter. Including me, there are only about 10 customers. Of course, apart from me being a poor loser, I think most of them are rich. Okay, no more nonsense. Next, let's go over there and take a look. By the way, let the beautiful shopping guide introduce us to the watches around. It can also be regarded as an eye-opener for brothers and let them experience the world of the rich." Soon Liu invited one of the beautiful shopping guides to briefly introduce various watches to him. After hearing those shocking quotations, the entire live broadcast room suddenly became restless again. "Oh my god. It's just a broken watch, but it costs 370,000. Oh my god, Brother Li really opened my eyes today. The money I spent on a watch can be used as a down payment for a house in our small county. The world of the rich is really incomprehensible. If I had a piece like this, I would definitely be able to show off and pick up girls." There was a burst of discussion in the live broadcast room. Many people were lamenting the luxury and expensiveness of the Patek Philippe watch. Of course, there were also a small number of people showing off their knowledge and commenting on various watches in front of the camera. However, such discussions really caused the live broadcast room to be attacked. "Damn, you seem to be saying the same thing? If not, then shut up." There were some people who originally wanted to show off, but on the one hand they were all half-baked and only knew the basics, and on the other hand they had to shut up under the attacks of countless netizens. After all, this is truly a world-class top-level watch, and I would feel less confident if I didn't have it. Liu always pays attention to the dynamics of the live broadcast room. He smiled and said, "Actually, everyone doesn't need to be angry. How many people in this world can afford a Patek Philippe watch? I think the brothers in the live broadcast room are still young. Not having one now does not necessarily mean that there will be no one in the future. Don't despise the poor young people. I think everyone should still have some ambition." Brother Li is right. Brother Li really understands us. Everyone will have it in the future. That's true, but I think I have it now. If I had a watch like this, wouldn't I be able to find a girlfriend in a minute? Liu saw that the hostility in the live broadcast room was no longer as strong as before, and smiled again and said, "Okay, next, let our shopping guide take the brothers to visit the top-end area to see what the real luxurious and expensive watches look like." Chapter 52. Pack it all up for me. Liu Jian and Zhang Yun were sitting in the top-level area. At this time, the beautiful shopping guide naturally introduced the top-of-the-line Patek Philippe watches to the two of them. The beautiful woman carefully took out 3 watches from the counter and introduced them with a smile. "Sir, the most expensive watches in the store are all here. This 6104G is a watch from the super complex timepiece series. This one is 001, which is also an automatic mechanical watch. The dial is dark blue. The entire disc is made of 3 sapphire crystal glasses. The part surrounded by the ellipse shows the night sky of Geneva. The design of the entire watch is very ethereal and elegant. It is very attractive to both young people who pursue fashion and mature, stable and successful men. The current price of this watch is 2,938,700 yuan. It looks pretty good." When Liu Jian saw the 6104G watch, he was also surprised by its natural design and couldn't help but feel moved. The beautiful shopping guide didn't think Liu Jian would really buy it just because he said that. After all, it was good to sell 1 or 2 top-level watches worth nearly 3 million a month, and almost every time they were sold to successful business people. There were too few young people like this who could afford it. She just smiled and continued, "Sir, this 6104R is similar to this one. The whole design is relatively similar, but the black sapphire crystal disc in the middle shows the starry sky background and the moon phase, and the transparent sapphire crystal disc shows the sky map and the Milky Way, which is very atmospheric. In addition, this 6104 also uses a rose gold diamond design, which is a very popular design at the moment. The current price is 2,852,500. Seeing this, Liu Jian nodded and said, "This watch does look very comfortable, and the price is not expensive." The mere 3 million was just a small sum for him, and he really didn't care much about it. Zhang Yun smiled and said, "Patek Philippe's top watches are always very good." The beautiful shopping guide listened to the conversation between the two and was moved. She introduced the third model again. "Sir, this 5202 1R001 is a manual mechanical watch. The whole watch is made of 18K rose gold as the main color, and the dial is black. The combination of the two looks very high-end and is most suitable for formal occasions. The current price is 2,322,800. Liu Jian asked Zhang Yun, "Which one do you think is more suitable for me?" Zhang Yun smiled and said, "Mr. Liu, these 3 watches are all very good. I think you can buy whichever one you like." "Mr. Liu." When she heard the name, the beautiful shopping guide next to her raised her eyes slightly. It seems that the previous judgment was wrong. This person must be a rich second generation. In any case, as long as there is performance, there will be commissions. If she can really sell one of these watches, she can at least get tens of thousands of dollars in income. Thinking of this, the beautiful shopping guide instantly became excited and said hurriedly, "Yes, these 3 models are all very good. Only top-level watches like this can show the gentleman's noble status and position." Har har har, you're right. When Liu Jian heard this, he couldn't help but smile. It's probably just a dozen steps away. Liu brought the live broadcast pole to the top-end area not far away. At this time, he saw 2 young people sitting there. Especially when he saw the beautiful girl in uniform next to them, his eyes lit up slightly. But after all, he was live streaming at this time, so he quickly collected his thoughts and said with a smile, "We have now arrived at the top-end area of Patek Philippe. Almost all the watches sold here are worth over $1 million. Let's open our eyes today. Hey, I didn't expect that there would be someone here today. Come on, let's quietly go over and see what watches they are looking at. Oh my god. These look like 61,044G and 6104R, and that one over there is 5,202. Liu had done a lot of homework beforehand, and recognized the 3 watches instantly when he saw them. I have to say, the 3 watches in front of you look so cool. No matter whether they are ethereal and elegant or mature and steady in style, each watch is extremely luxurious and yet looks very grand. What the hell? 6104G and 6104R, these are watches worth nearly 3 million. Oh my god, that's the 5202 that I've always dreamed of. This watch must cost more than 2 million. Soon the live broadcast room exploded, and everyone seemed extremely uneasy when they heard the price of the watch. Liu took a deep breath and said slowly, "I didn't expect that the brothers in our live broadcast room also recognized these watches. Yes, these are indeed 6104 series and 5202 series watches. These are the most suitable among Patek Philippe. Both the craftsmanship and superb design are top-notch. As for the price, let alone in Jiangnan City, each one can buy a very nice house in other second-tier cities in China. The entire live broadcast room seemed extremely excited after hearing this, and many people were almost constantly commenting on the message board. "Oh my god, I can't afford a watch like this even if I won the lottery. The people upstairs can buy 10 or 8 yuan when they dream. I think there is still a chance. If I could buy the watches worth 200,000 or 300,000 yuan, I might be able to do it with some effort, but I'm afraid I won't be able to buy a top-level watch like this in my lifetime." The entire barrage was filled with surprise and despair. Each model cost nearly 3 million. Who could afford it unless they were rich? Brothers, we can only look at these watches. After all, they are too expensive. Liu said with a smile. If he had said that he wanted to cheer up the brothers in the live broadcast room before, but watches like this have long been despairing, so naturally he would just make fun of them. He smiled and said, "Let's not talk about the whole world. For example, in this flagship store in Jiangnan City, I think it's pretty good to sell 1 or 2 pieces every month, so everyone doesn't need to belittle themselves. You see, after all, most people who come here just want to take a look." As he said that, he turned the camera to scan Liu Jian. "Please wrap them all up for me. I will change them every day." However, at this moment Liu Jian did not hesitate at all and said very proudly, "Boom." As soon as these words came out, Liu's right hand holding the live broadcast pole fell instantly. If it weren't for his quick reaction, he would have fallen to the ground. The salesgirl over there also trembled violently and said incredulously, "Sir, you said you want all these watches." Liu Jian nodded and said, "Not bad." The salesgirl immediately said excitedly, Okay, I'll pack it for you right away." Boom. At this moment, the entire live broadcast room suddenly exploded. Countless comments popped up at this moment, and almost everyone looked at this scene with shock on their faces. "Oh my god, could this guy be the legendary rich man? 3 watches, this must cost more than 8 million Chinese yuan. Rich man, this is definitely rich man. Today I finally know what rich people look like. Humph, what's so great about that? Isn't it just that he has a rich dad? Without his dad, he is nothing." Chapter 53. It turns out that he is, I am the god of wealth. Ding, the shock from the anchor Liu is detected, the godly points +4. Ding, jealousy from our friend Shoop detected, godly points +3. Ding, envy from the water friend Tank is detected, the rich points +3. At this moment, Liu Jian suddenly received a series of intensive prompt sounds, which made him confused. What's going on? How come I suddenly got so many godly rich points? You know, in just a few seconds, I reached nearly 5,000 points. Liu Jian was filled with surprise and looked around. He then noticed a young man in his early 20s standing not far behind him. He was holding a live broadcast pole facing him. Liu Jian suddenly felt that the person in front of him seemed familiar, but for a moment he couldn't remember where he had seen him. Zhang Yun looked at Liu, who was in a state of shock, and asked curiously, "Boss Liu, what's wrong?" Liu Jian suddenly seemed to remember something, nodded subconsciously, and pointed at Liu over there and said, "I remember, you are an outdoor anchor, I think your name is Cole." These words immediately brought Liu back to reality. Does this rich man know me? Oh my god, could he still be my friend? Not only Liu, the entire live broadcast room suddenly exploded at this moment. Oh my god. This rich guy actually knows my little Yu. Is he really that famous now? The plot changes so quickly that I even doubt whether the two knew each other before. Brother Tu Hao, please pay attention to me. I will follow you from now on. At this moment, Liu had no time to pay attention to the noise in the live broadcast room. He immediately ran over excitedly and said with a respectful smile, "I am Liu, currently working as an outdoor anchor on a certain fish platform. Sir, I didn't expect you to know me." Liu? It seems to be called this name. Li Jian was not too sure about the name, and said with a smile, "I watched some live broadcasts a few days ago, and yours should have been on them. If I remember correctly, I should have given you a reward." "Oh, really?" Li's expression slightly changed, and he quickly said, "Thank you very much, I didn't expect to meet such a rich friend here today." Liu Jian was also a little surprised to meet an outdoor anchor here. He still had some impression of this anchor. He had a good impression of him at the beginning, so he naturally didn't put on airs at this time. He smiled and said, "Why? Today's theme is watches." Liu nodded and said, "Yes, today I want to bring my friends here to see the world's top watches." "Sir, your watch has been packed. I don't know how you will pay for it." "Swipe the card." "Okay, your total consumption is 8,114,000. Since you purchased 3 watches directly, we have deliberately wiped out your remaining balance. You only need to pay 8 million. Please enter the password here." "All right." In just less than 3 minutes, 8 million Chinese yuan were swiped away here, and Liu Jian didn't even blink an eye. Not to mention that the live broadcast room was boiling again at this moment. Liu alone felt his heart beating extremely violently. To be honest, it's not like he hasn't seen rich people before, but it's extremely rare to see someone who spends as much as Liu Jian. He paused and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Brother Tuhao, I wonder what you call me. My last name is Liu." Liu Jian took back the bank card and said with a smile. Liu looked at the watches and said excitedly, "Master Liu, your work is truly amazing." Liu Jian smiled and said, "It's nothing, I just wear it on from time to time." "Oh my god. This tone is really awesome." If anyone else said this, Liu would definitely think that the other person was showing off, but when he heard Liu Jian say this, he somehow felt that the other person was telling the truth. In the eyes of the other party, these watches worth 8 million are probably just for fun. Now that he had bought the things, Liu Jian didn't plan to stay here any longer. He turned on his phone and quickly opened a live streaming platform called Youkuku. Since he earned 1 million points using the live broadcast platform last time, Liu Jian has become more and more fond of live broadcasting, so he directly downloaded an application app on his mobile phone. At this time, he quickly found an outdoor anchor named Liu in the outdoor anchor area. His popularity was not very high, and he was probably ranked in the top 20 among outdoor anchors. Meeting is fate, so let's just consider this as making friends. Liu Jian nodded casually, and after he finished, he took Zhang Yun away. Liu didn't expect the other party to leave as soon as he said he would, and he couldn't help feeling a little regretful. You have to know that this is definitely the richest of the rich, and what's more important is that the opponent is actually his own water friend. Such a great opportunity to make friends with such a rich man was missed in vain, which really made him feel very upset. However, at this moment he suddenly remembered what Liu Jian said when he left, and he couldn't help but look down. It would have been better if he hadn't looked, but when he did, he was immediately shocked. Congratulations to Anchor Liu for receiving 10 super hot rewards from I Am a Super Rich. At this moment, a message suddenly flashed across the platform system, and the entire live broadcast room was filled with a number of super popular flashes. Oh my god! 10 shots are super hot. What a big deal! He is indeed a rich man. Liu was indescribably excited when he saw those 10 super hot shots. That was a full 20,000 Chinese yuan. Even if it was in his hands, there would be 10,000 of them, and that was just a reward from the 2 of them who met by chance. Fuck! What did I just see? He gave me 10 super fires after just one encounter. This rich guy is really wealthy. Look, this is the name of the rich guy. Oh my god, he is my super rich guy. No wonder he is so rich. Liu naturally saw the countless comments in the live broadcast room. Suddenly, he seemed to notice something and his pupils shrank sharply. I am a super rich man. Yes. The name of the person who just rewarded me with 10 super hot shots is I am a super rich man. Liu's whole body trembled violently, and he even found it difficult to breathe. Oh my god, it turns out that great netizen from a few days ago was him. Liu had an extremely strong impression of this wealthy fan who had spent nearly 30 million Chinese yuan a few days ago, and he still can't forget it until now. That night, the demeanor of this super rich netizen shocked the entire live broadcast industry. Almost countless people were discussing who this netizen was and how he could be so wealthy. However, no one could dig out this man's background, and no one knew where he came from. I am a super rich man who comes and goes silently as if I were born to be a super rich man. Damn it, why didn't I ask for his phone number? Liu immediately patted his head, his eyes filled with strong regret. At this time, Liu Jian had already gone far away, and it was probably too late to chase him now. It is said that Liu was indeed rewarded with 10 super fires by this super rich fan. At that time, he was so excited that he was a little incoherent. Later, like many anchors, he also sent a friend request, but in the end, it fell into the sea. Chapter 54 Jiangnan University. After finishing the shopping trip, Liu Jian took Zhongyun back to the underground garage. Just as he was about to get in the car, Liu Jian suddenly received a voice from the system. Ding, please go to the Jiangnan University library to sign in before 6 o'clock tonight. The sign-in reward is the skill photographic memory. I didn't expect a skill to appear this time, it's awesome. Liu Jian couldn't help but feel overjoyed. You know, the sign-in rewards have always been material, but there has never been a skill like this. Thinking of this, his mind moved slightly, and soon the explanation of the skill appeared in the taskbar, photographic memory but. Anyone who masters this skill will have an excellent memory, and will never forget what they saw when the skill was activated. What an amazing skill! Originally, Liu Jian thought that this was a skill that only appeared in supernatural novels, but he didn't expect that it would now become his sign-in reward. He checked the time and found that it was almost 4 o'clock, so he said directly, Zhongyun, let the bodyguards behind take you back first, I have something else to do. Okay, Mr. Liu. Zhongyun nodded. Although she was a little surprised that Liu Jian suddenly went out at this time, she certainly wouldn't ask too much. Boom. Soon. Liu Jian drove the Reventon away quickly. Half an hour later. Liu Jian arrived at the gate of Jiangnan University. Jiangnan University is one of the top 10 universities in China. Relying on the top educational resources of Jiangnan City, the Magic City, the entire Jiangnan University has countless star teachers and experts and scholars in various industries. Every year, the students who can be admitted to this school are all from various provinces and cities. As one of the best universities in China, Jiangnan University has been rising in ranking over the years, and is showing a tendency to challenge the 2 top universities in Yanqing. Nowadays, universities are not under martial law like junior and senior high schools. Liu Jian, driving a Lamborghini, entered the school campus very smoothly. The appearance of this Reventon quickly attracted the attention of many students around. Fortunately, it was not the end of get out of class, so generally speaking it did not cause much commotion. Liu Jian drove the car to the parking lot according to the instructions of the guard and then got out of the car. After half a year, Liu Jian returned to the university campus again. Even though it was not the same school, he saw many students around him walking, playing ball, or chatting about love, and he couldn't help but feel emotional. I really miss college life. Liu Jian spoke in a low voice, his words full of longing. Thinking back to when he was in college, he would go out to work part-time besides attending classes, and spent the rest of his time with Liu Mai, but who would have thought that it would all be in vain in the end? If there was no sign-in system today, he would probably still be struggling at the bottom. Thinking of this, Liu Jian suddenly felt very lucky and murmured, fortunately, there is a sign-in system. Now my wonderful life has just begun. Then he strolled forward. It is around 4:30 and the students are still in class. Liu Jian asked a girl passing by about the location of the library and walked towards that direction. I have to say, the campus of Jiangnan University is indeed very large. It took him nearly 10 minutes to reach the library. Forehead. As soon as he arrived at the library, Liu Jian glanced around and his expression suddenly changed. Because it was only now that he realized he needed to bring a card to enter the library. Without a campus card, you cannot prove your identity, and you cannot enter the library to study or borrow books. What to do? There are security guards guarding the entrance to the corridor, so it would be impossible to force your way in or sneak through. At this moment, Liu Jian suddenly saw a bright and charming girl walking towards him from behind. His eyes were shocked and full of surprise. Li Moran. Isn't he this the girl who sang in the live broadcast room? Liu Jian was naturally impressed by this beautiful girl with an ethereal singing voice. He did not expect that she was a student of this university, so he immediately greeted her, Li Moran. Hello. Li Moran, who was walking with his head down while holding a book, noticed Liu Jian at this moment. He looked up, frowned, and replied helplessly. To be honest, Li Moran is still finding it difficult to adapt recently. Although her income has increased greatly since she started live streaming and she no longer has to worry about her father's hospital expenses, as her live streaming fame grows, many of her classmates now recognize her. Just like now, when she walks on the street, someone will say hello to her. If it were someone else, they might enjoy the pleasure that comes with fame, but for Li Moran, who has always liked tranquility, it is still quite troublesome. She really doesn't like communicating with people. Hello. Liu Jian didn't expect the other party's expression and tone to be so indifferent, and he didn't know what to say for a moment. Li Moran obviously had no intention of stopping to chat with him. He quickly passed by Liu Jian and walked straight to a place not far away, etc. Seeing that Li Moran was about to pass through the passage, he immediately stopped him. Li Moran turned around curiously, frowned slightly and asked, "Classmate, is there something wrong?" Liu Jian smiled and said, "I'm not a student of this school, but I want to go to the library. Can you take me in?" Li Moran was surprised. It turns out that he is not a student of his school. Thinking of this, she quickly shook her head apologetically and said, "I'm really sorry. The school has a rule that non-students are not allowed to enter the library to study or borrow materials. I'm sorry, I really can't help you." Then she walked towards the second floor. Oh my god. This girl is actually so upright. Liu Jian never expected Li Moran to answer like this. If he had known, he would have just said that he was the rich man in her live broadcast room. Perhaps the other party would have taken him in by now. But it's too late to say anything now. But even so, Liu Jian snorted coldly and said arrogantly, "Isn't it just a university library? Can't I, Liu Jian, enter a place like this?" Then he walked towards that direction as well. Not long. Liu Jian came to the passage and said to the security guard sitting next to him with a smile, "Uncle, I'm sorry. I'm not from our school. I just want to go to the library to find some books. I wonder if it's convenient for me to pass through." "Go. Go. Go." The uncle in the corridor seemed very serious. When he heard that Liu Jian was not from this school, he was ready to kick him out. Liu Jian was not angry, and still smiled and said, "Uncle, come here. I want to discuss something with you, and I promise I won't let you suffer any loss." Seeing that Liu Jian didn't look like a bad guy in his attire, the uncle paused and followed Liu Jian to the corner. Chapter 55 Li Moran's Thoughts. About 3 minutes later, Liu Jian appeared in the library on the second floor. He glanced at the students around him who were quietly browsing books with a smile, his eyes full of pride. For someone like him who is worth tens of billions, it may not be very difficult to get past the security guard. At least the security guard at the moment must be very happy. Let's find a place to sit for a while. According to Liu Jian's understanding of the nature of the system, it was absolutely impossible for him to complete the sign-in immediately. So at this time, he had already prepared to continue waiting, and immediately scanned the surroundings to find a quiet place. However, there were too many people in the library at the moment, and the seats were very limited. Many of the empty seats were occupied by books. It was not easy for him to find 2 empty seats in a corner. After Liu Jian sat down, he took out the Patek Philippe watch on his wrist, looked at the time and found that it was about 4:40, and there was only a little over an hour left before the sign-in task was completed at 6 o'clock. "Let me play with my phone for a while. I can just take a break here." Liu Jian was quite open-minded about this and quickly took out his phone. He casually browsed the news with a patient look on his face. It was only 2 or 3 minutes later. Suddenly, a light exclamation came from beside him. Liu Jian looked up and found that Li Moran was standing beside him at some point. At this time, Li Moran stood there in a coquettish manner, holding books in both hands and looking at Liu Jian in surprise, as if to say, "How did you get in?" "Hi." Liu Jian greeted him gently, his eyes full of smiles. "I don't know what happened today, I actually met 2 anchors in a row." Li Moran was repulsive to such a strange boy, but after a quick glance around, she found that there were really no empty seats, so she hesitated and finally sat down. She noticed that Liu Jian was looking at her, and immediately frowned and said, "Didn't you say you were not from our school? How did you get in?" Liu Jian laughed softly and said, "Money makes the world go round." Li Moran didn't quite understand what Liu Jian meant, but he quickly opened his mouth and asked in surprise, "You said you bribed the security guard?" No. Liu Jian shook his head and said with a smile, "You can't say such harsh words. It should be called each taking what he needs." Li Moran was really speechless. "It's just a bribe, why do you have to make it sound so righteous? I'm afraid this person is not a good person." Thinking of this, Li Moran decided not to pay any attention to Liu Jian. He took out his books and reference materials and prepared to review them carefully. After all, during this period of time, On the one hand, she has been running back and forth between school and hospital frequently for her father's illness, and on the other hand, she has to continue live streaming, which has caused her to fall behind in her studies recently. She has to hurry up now. However, Liu Jian had no such awareness at all, and said with a smile, "I went to your live broadcast room a few days ago, and found that the songs you sang were quite good. Thanks." Li Moran didn't even raise his head, but just answered politely. Forehead. It seems like this girl doesn't seem to care about me. Liu Jian realized this belatedly. To be honest, ever since he got the sign-in system, he has been respected and flattered almost everywhere he goes. Also, because he had given huge rewards to others before, he had a preconceived notion that the other party would definitely treat him well, so he didn't think much about it. But he never expected that he would be rejected now. Should I tell her that it was me who gave you 1,000 super hot rewards last time? After thinking about it, Liu Jian quickly shook his head. He felt it would be boring if he really did that. There is no shortage of girls around him who are constantly trying to please him. Although Li Moran in front of him looked extremely pure, and her temperament was not inferior to Su Jinsi and others, I believed that with Li Moran's looks, she was definitely a campus beauty in Jiangnan University. However, Liu Jian was not the kind of person who fell in love with every girl he met. Since the other party didn't like to pay attention to him, he certainly wouldn't rush to get close to her. Soon, Liu Jian sat there obediently browsing news information and various gossip and entertainment news. Li Moran originally thought that Liu Jian would come to bother her again. After all, she often met boys like this in the library. However, what surprised her a little was that Liu Jian just sat there quietly. She was slightly relieved when she saw this. Of course, although I wanted to devote myself to learning, the process was not smooth. In fact, whenever Li Moran calmed down these days, he would keep recording what happened in the live broadcast that day. Thousands of shots are super hot. This is a reward of 2 million Chinese yuan. No matter how Li Moran imagined, she couldn't understand how a complete stranger could bring her such a generous reward. What on earth was he trying to do? Maybe there was someone who had taken a fancy to her, but the two of them had been friends for quite a few days, but the other party never sent her any message. And judging from the way that friend spent a lot of money that day, she guessed that the other party might not be interested in her. Li Moran asked himself that he would never do such a thing as selling his body, but at the same time he couldn't help but imagine the background and origin of that rich fan. $30 million in expenses. Does that person really have so much money that he can't spend it all? Li Moran's mind was full of doubts and gratitude. In any case, the success of today's live broadcast was brought to her by that rich fan friend. If it weren't for his strong support, Li Moran would probably still be worrying about her father's medical expenses. Well, I couldn't calm down after all. Li Moran tried several times to clear his mind of distracting thoughts, but he still couldn't calm down. She had to put down the book temporarily and turned on her mobile phone out of habit. She didn't watch live broadcasts before, after all, she didn't have the heart to care about them. But now that she is engaged in this industry, she has begun to pay attention to other anchors. When she opened the Certain Fish platform, she was quickly attracted by a message. The trace of the super rich fan friend, "I am a super rich," suddenly appeared. This is a push message from a certain Anchor S forum. The water bar is their hostess' back garden, where his fans can chat and discuss with each other, which is equivalent to the function of Baidu Chiba. When Li Moran saw this message, she subconsciously clicked on it and soon saw a lot of posts. She quickly clicked on them and started browsing. Soon. Only then did Li Moran realize that the "I am a super rich man" really appeared. He happened to see the anchor in a watch shop and gave him 10 super hot rewards. What made her feel regretful was that at that time, no one knew the other party's identity, no screenshots of the characters were left, and the anchor did not have the habit of recording the broadcast. Everyone only knew that the other party was a young man named Liu. Chapter 56 Photographic Memory. I don't know who he is. After reading the post from beginning to end, Li Moran spoke leisurely, his eyes full of curiosity. It's not that Li Moran had any great admiration for this super rich man or wanted to curry favor with him like other girls, she was just simply curious and grateful. If it weren't for the help of "I am a super rich," I believe that Li Moran would not have achieved such great results in such a short period of time, and it would have been impossible for her to escape from her current predicament. All of this is related to "I am a super rich man." So when she heard any news about "I am a super rich man" at this time, she would subconsciously click on it, but it seemed that there was too little useful information on this post. After reading through a number of posts, Lee Moran finally didn't find anything else, so he put away his phone and prepared to immerse himself in studying. But at this moment, she suddenly discovered that the boy next to her was lying there playing landlord. Since this person is not from our school and is not here to look up information, why would he go to so much trouble to come to the library? Lee Moran felt speechless and puzzled, but she was not the kind of person who wanted to get to the bottom of things, so she shook her head slightly and began to study quietly. Liu Jian was indeed feeling bored at this time. He was not the kind of person who liked to play games, so he could only play landlord to pass the time. Time passes slowly. Liu Jian quickly lost all the happy beans given by the system for free, and then he recharged another 10,000 Chinese yuan. In an instant, his happy beans skyrocketed again and reached 500 million. 500 million happy beans. When the people in the room saw the amount of beans Liu Jian had, they were all stunned. How rich or powerful must this guy be to accumulate so many happy beans? Liu Jian didn't care at all. It was nice to make some extra money. Of course, every time Liu Jian entered an amusement park, he would attract the covetousness of the two families nearby. This opportunity to beat the rich must not be missed. Just 10 minutes. Liu Jian lost all his happy beans again. Not a single one left. Oh my god. Why is my luck so bad? Liu Jian couldn't help but complain, and his face looked a little ugly. Money is not important to him. But losing so badly is really too embarrassing. Where will young Master Liu put his face? However, just as Liu Jian was recharging and continuing the bloody battle, Lee Moran's voice came from the side. Excuse me, sir. This is a library. Can you be quiet? Liu Jian then noticed that many people around him were looking at him strangely, and he awkwardly made an okay gesture. Only then did Lee Moran continue to devote himself to his studies. No matter what. We have to get our grand back. Liu Jian spent another 10,000 yuan and was resurrected with full health and status. I don't know if it's because Mr. Liu's card skills are too bad or his luck is just bad, but he lost every time he played, and soon he lost all his belongings. When he lost the last million happy beans, Liu Jian immediately cursed, "It's so unlucky to meet such a stupid teammate. I could have intercepted the game, but I had to let the landlord pass. It's so stupid." As a god-level tycoon, passing the buck is also a must. Classmate. However, just as he finished speaking, a freckled girl sitting opposite him spoke angrily. I'm sorry. Liu Jian finally realized that he had gotten into trouble again. He looked at Lee Moran and found that the latter also looked at him helplessly. It seems that I am being disliked. Liu Jian didn't expect that even this girl began to dislike him, and he was very unhappy. If it weren't for the system sign-in, he wouldn't be so bored as to play landlord here. Thinking of this, Liu Jian couldn't help but glance at his watch and found that it was already around 5:30 without him realizing it. But even so, the system didn't give any hints. Damn it. This suicidal system is good in everything else except this one. Ding, it is detected that the host has arrived at the Jiangnan University Library. Would you like to sign in now? Sign in. Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in. Reward skill, photographic memory. Just at this moment, the system finally sent a sign-in reminder, which sounded like the sound of nature. As Liu Jian successfully signed in, a new skill suddenly appeared in his mind. His mind moved slightly, and soon the skill introduction appeared in his field of vision again. Photographic memory. Anyone who masters this skill will have an excellent memory. As long as the skill is activated. Once you see it, you will never forget it. The duration increases as the host's ability increases. Currently it is 5 minutes. There is 1 day between each activation. Although it is not a passive skill and the active release time is only 5 minutes, it is still quite good overall. Liu Jian's face was full of smiles. He was very satisfied with the first skill he had acquired. Of course, before that, he had to test whether it was really as powerful as the system said. Thinking of this, he glanced around and found that Lee Moran was reciting some articles at this time, looking very distressed. Liu Jian smiled, moved closer, and whispered, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be so serious. But it's just a small thing, but you haven't memorized it for such a long time. Aren't you a little too stupid?" Lee Moran rolled his eyes at Liu Jian and didn't want to pay any attention to him. What do you mean it's just this little bit? She studied economics, and many things needed to be memoized and understood. For example, this article was based on the content in the book, and she needed to remember it completely. However, many of the nouns in it were difficult to pronounce, and the content was long, so it was really not easy to memorize it. Liu Jian was not angry either. He smiled and said, "Why? You don't believe it?" "No." Li Moran threw out two words helplessly, wanting to completely end this conversation. To be honest, Li Moran was very popular in school. Many boys would try their best to strike up a conversation with her with various reasons. When she heard Liu Jian talking like this, she naturally thought that he was doing the same thing. Liu Jian smiled and said, "Then I'll show you." Then he snatched the book from her desk. "You?" Li Moran really felt that this man was so rude. She didn't even want to pay attention to him, but he actually snatched her book away. Thinking of this, she said helplessly, "What do you want?" Liu Jian ignored Li Moran's words. His eyes quickly scanned the book at an astonishing speed. After just a moment, Liu Jian read through the 3-page article, then threw the book to the other party and said with a smile, "Isn't that all? I have memoized it all." Chapter 57, Encounter on Campus. Boast. Li Moran didn't believe Liu Jian's words at all. There was a hint of disgust in his eyes, and he didn't even want to say another word. "You'll know if you can brag if you try it. So listen to me now." Liu Jian's face was full of confidence. He smiled and soon said softly and slowly, "The so-called economic law is a universal law that exists in economic relations. His speech speed was neither fast nor slow, and he was very calm throughout the whole speech. If Li Moran really didn't believe that Liu Jian could recite it in an instant at the beginning, as Liu Jian spoke more and more, a look of disbelief flashed across her pretty face. How is this possible?" Li Moran's mouth opened slightly, and soon it seemed as if an egg could fit in it. You have to know that this is an extremely profound economic theory, and the written expression is extremely obscure. Even for her, it would take a lot of time to memorize this article completely. Even if the other party is also from an economics background, it is impossible for him to be so proficient, right? After all, this person recited it exactly, not a single word was wrong. Oh my God! Are there really geniuses in this world? Li Moran's delicate body was trembling slightly, and she looked extremely shocked. Just less than 2 minutes. Liu Jian recited an article of more than 1,300 words. Seeing Li Moran completely stunned, he couldn't help but chuckle and said, "How is it? I told you long ago that memoizing such a short article is a piece of cake." Li Moran took a deep breath and finally came to her senses. She said slowly, "Have you memoized this article before?" "Of course not." Liu Jian shrugged, his eyes full of confidence. Li Moran opened his mouth slightly, not knowing what to say. Is this person's memory really that good? Now that he had received the sign in reward, there was certainly no need for Liu Jian to stay here any longer. He stood up with a smile and said, "Okay, let's stop here today. See you later." Then he walked to a place not far away. It seems that he didn't mean to strike up a conversation with me on purpose. Li Moran was slightly surprised and relieved when she saw Liu Jian leave here. Previously, she had classified Liu Jian as one of those male classmates who usually pestered her, so she really didn't want to pay attention to him. But now it seems that although this man is a little weird, he may have his own things to do. Thinking of this, Li Moran couldn't help but mutter, if he really hadn't memoized it before, then his memory is really too terrible. It was already close to 6 in the evening when he came out of the library. The campus was full of people, both men and women, going to the cafeteria for meals. Liu Jian had no intention of staying here to eat, so he immediately prepared to go to the parking lot. However, at this moment, a shout suddenly came from behind, "Liu Jian." This voice sounds familiar. Liu Jian quickly turned around and found that a middle-aged woman in her 40s was standing about 10 meters away. The woman's appearance was not outstanding, but she was elegant, giving people a dignified and comfortable feeling. Teacher who? When Liu Jian saw the other person, he was suddenly filled with surprise and excitement. The Hu Shuefen in front of him was his psychology teacher in college. When Liu Jian's family suffered an accident, he was extremely depressed for the entire school year. It was this psychology teacher who had been guiding him and helping him come out of the shadows. So Liu Jian was always grateful to teacher Li, but later he heard that teacher Lee had been transferred, and the two lost contact. I just didn't expect to meet him here today. Hu Shuefen on the other side also looked at Liu Jian in surprise, but a faint smile soon appeared on her face again. Liu Jian walked over excitedly and asked, Teacher Hu, why are you here? Hu Shuefen smiled and said, You forgot, I was transferred from Jiangnan University to the School of Finance and Economics. Now the 3-year term has expired, so of course I was transferred back. But you have graduated for half a year, right? Liu Jian nodded, and then he remembered that Hu Shuefen seemed to have mentioned this before, but he didn't pay much attention to it at that time. At this time, he said excitedly, Teacher Hu, we haven't seen each other for almost 3 years, right? Hu Shuefen smiled and said, Yes, you transferred to the main campus after your junior year, so of course we didn't have many opportunities to meet each other later. By the way, how have you been recently? Liu Jian knew what Hu Shuefen was referring to, and his heart moved slightly. He said, That's good. A relaxed expression appeared on his face. That's good. Hu Shuefen nodded. Seeing Liu Jian come out of such a shadow, she was naturally happy for him. She smiled and asked, Where are you working recently? Liu Jian said, Yunqian Group. Yunqian Group. Hu Shuefen's face changed slightly when she heard the name. She forced a smile and said, That group in Jiangnan City is famous for its good benefits. It seems that you have made good progress recently. Liu Jian smiled and said, This is all thanks to Teacher Li. If it weren't for Teacher Li's constant and painstaking persuasion, I might not be who I am today. Hu Shuefen smiled faintly and said, This is what I should do as a teacher. Liu Jian was full of gratitude towards Hu Shuefen, and he was naturally even more delighted to meet her here today. He looked at the time and saw that it was getting late, so he hurriedly said, Teacher Hu, you haven't eaten yet, right? I'll treat you to a big meal. Hu Shuefen knew Liu Jian's situation very well and knew how difficult it was for this kid who came from the mountains. She smiled and said, I was going to have dinner, but I'm going to skip the big meal. I have a class later in the evening, so why don't we just eat in the school cafeteria and chat while we're there? All right. Seeing this, Liu Jian had no choice but to agree. Soon, the two walked towards the school cafeteria. Of course, the two people on the road were not idle, and naturally talked about what happened at school at that time. However, Liu Jian found that Hu Shuefen did not seem to be in a very good mood, and there seemed to be a sense of sadness between her brows. Liu Jian couldn't help but frown and asked, Teacher Hu, have you been thinking about something recently? No, nothing. Hu Shuefen's eyes flickered, and she forced a faint smile on her face, saying, I'm doing a good job as a teacher, what could possibly happen? Don't let your imagination run wild. Look, we're already at the cafeteria, let's go in and have something to eat. Seeing that Hu Shuefen seemed to be pretending to be relaxed, Liu Jian was still a little suspicious, but since the other party said so, he naturally did not ask more questions and could only nod. Teacher Hu. He had only taken 2 steps when a clear and pleasant voice suddenly came from the other side. Chapter 58, Teacher Hu's Recent Situation. Li Moran. Liu Jian never expected that the person behind him was Li Moran, and the other party also seemed very surprised when he saw him. Hu Shuefen smiled and waved to Li Moran, who was not far away. The latter hesitated for a moment and finally came over. Teacher Hu. Li Moran greeted Hu Shuefen. Hu Shuefen smiled and said, Moran, are you coming to eat? How about we eat together? Li Moran glanced at Liu Jian and said, Teacher Hu, this isn't appropriate. I think it's better for me to eat alone. Hu Shuefen smiled faintly and said, This is a former student of mine at the School of Finance and Economics named Liu Jian. He happened to come to our school today to do some work, so we had dinner together. In terms of seniority, he can barely be called your senior brother. Hello, junior sister. Although Li Moran was very cold to him, Liu Jian didn't really care. After all, he didn't have any bad intentions and just treated her as a little sister. Li Moran was speechless for a moment. This guy was really taking advantage of others. Normally, Li Moran would rarely eat with boys, but when she thought of Liu Jian's shocking memory, she hesitated but nodded and said, Hello. Then let's go. Hu Shuefen smiled slightly, and then said to Liu Jian, Although we are just a university here, the food in the cafeteria is still very delicious. I have to say. Hu Shuefen's statement was not an exaggeration. Even though the food in Jiangnan University's cafeteria was not as good as that of Yunqian Group, it was indeed quite delicious. After the three of them ordered several dishes, they started eating in a corner. Compared to other places, the third floor was quite quiet, at least no one would come to disturb them. Liu Jian hadn't seen Hu Shuefen for a long time and started chatting with her enthusiastically. Although Hu Shuefen didn't seem to be in a very good mood at the beginning, but when Liu Jian talked about the past, a smile gradually appeared on the corner of her mouth and her face looked quite cheerful. As for Li Moran, he didn't say much and sat quietly beside her, only occasionally glancing at Liu Jian with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Apparently, the campus beauty from Jiangnan University was still shocked by Liu Jian's amazing memory. Hu Shuefen smiled and said, "Liu Jian, how are you with your girlfriend recently? I remember you seemed to be very close to Zhongmai at that time. We split up last month." Liu Jian replied in a calm tone. Hu Shuefen is a psychology teacher, so it's no problem for her to read people's expressions. Recalling the past, she comforted them, "I didn't expect that after more than 3 years of relationship, you two couldn't be together in the end." At the end, she sounded a little sad, as if she was remembering something. Li Moran looked at Hu Shuefen worriedly. Liu Jian didn't notice anything, and said slowly, "She and I are not the same kind of people, and I couldn't give her what she needed before." Liu Jian and Zhang Mai were both Hu Shuefen's former students. She was of course aware of their situations. She nodded and said, "Zhang Mai does have higher material requirements. In fact, I felt that you two might not be the same type of people at the beginning, but you were already together at that time, so I didn't say anything. Instead, I think Xie Yao is still the right person for you. Xie Yao is back. We met before." Liu Jian smiled faintly, with a hint of smile on his face. "Oh, really?" Hu Shuefen had a deep impression of Xie Yao and was quite surprised to hear this. Liu Jian briefly introduced Xie Yao's recent situation, and the latter was slightly surprised. Hu Shuefen said slowly, "Xie Yao is as kind-hearted as our Mo Ran, and she is also beautiful. She is indeed a good marriage partner." Li Moran didn't expect Hu Shuefen to talk about him, and he looked a little embarrassed. "I know that, too." To be honest, Liu Jian was only amazed at the beauty of beautiful girls like Su Jinsi, Lin Weiya, etc., but he had a special feeling for Xie Yao. Hu Shuefen smiled and said, "I know Xie Yao's conditions are indeed very good, and it's not easy to match her, but if young people like someone, they should pursue her boldly. After all, there are still unlimited possibilities in the future." Her eyes were full of encouragement. Liu Jian said, "Teacher who is still so inspiring." Hu Shuefen's mouth showed a hint of bitterness, and she said, Har, actually I can only talk about it." Liu Jian's heart moved slightly. Hu Shuefen quickly changed the subject and said, "By the way, Mo Ran. How is your father doing recently?" Li Moran's expression became solemn when he heard this, and he said leisurely, "After I paid the hospital fee 2 days ago, the hospital has used the best medicine for treatment, but it is not easy to completely cure my father's brain tumor." Brain tumor. When Liu Jian heard this, he immediately remembered the purpose of Li Moran's live broadcast. It seemed that the girl did not lie. As far as he knew, this disease could be serious or minor, and if it was severe it could indeed be life-threatening. No wonder Li Moran looked so sad. Hu Shuefen advised, "I think your father will definitely get better. I believe he still wants to see you graduate successfully." Li Moran nodded. Although he was in pain, he still looked very strong. The topic was too serious, so Hu Shuefen quickly changed the subject. But suddenly, Hu Shuefen received another call. After only chatting for a few minutes, the former left with a somewhat grim look on his face. Only Liu Jian and Li Moran were left at the dinner table. Liu Jian couldn't help but ask curiously, "Do you know how teacher Hu is doing recently? I always feel like she seems to be worried." Li Moran sighed softly and said worriedly, "Something happened in teacher Hu's family recently. It is said that her grandfather had an affair, and her husband seemed to be trying to divorce teacher Hu because of the mistress. Things are getting very bad." "So that's what happened?" Liu Jian's face darkened when he heard this. Although teacher Hu was not particularly good-looking, she was indeed a kind-hearted teacher. What happened today was indeed a huge blow to her. Li Moran said quietly, "When teacher Hu married her husband, he had nothing. Teacher Hu never despised him and always devoted herself to the family. Now her husband is the project leader of a department in a large company like Yunqian Group. He has achieved some success, but he has found a mistress outside and even ignored teacher who and the family for that mistress. What a scumbag! Yunqian Group. Liu Jian suddenly understood why teacher who looked a little strange when he heard him say that he worked at Yunqian Group.